Hello and welcome everybody to the Not for Normies Invitational Tournament, and today is going to be exciting. It's going to be a hot date between Big Al and Josiah. The sun is out, the doves are flying. These two teams have looked as hard as iron, and when they're flying high, they look pretty near angelic. Well, that's a lot of the players on these two teams. We have two teams going up against each other that have not lost yet. We have LFT. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to shout that. There's an explanation point at the beginning of the name, not afterwards. And the path to poverty. So it is going to be an absolutely exciting match. But luckily, I don't have to try to break this down all by myself. I have a full cast and crew that's going to help me to do this. So without further ado, we have Pulsable. And we have Mukaibu to break this match down. First off, guys, how are we doing today?
Doing great. I love it. We're going to have a nice 6-hour cast here. Get this tournament done proper.
Real quick question. How long did it take for you to come up with that intro, Green Havoc, where you just name every single player?
You know what? I'm happy to say it didn't take me that long. And if the names were too complicated, I just said they get benched. They get to watch out. But yeah, so we've got two teams here, and it definitely is going to be an exciting one. So Pausable, let's break down LFT first. What are some of the things we need to know about this team?
Well, we haven't gotten to see this team on broadcast yet, but as you said, yet to be defeated here in the Not For Normies Invitational Tournament. They are up in that winners finals that we are going to be showcasing first today. There's going to be 3 players primarily that I'm looking out for, one in each role. First is going to be Nishik. I think that's how you say that. Sorry if it's not. But he's going to be a flex support player, supposedly according to word of mouth, according to our color caster Vowels. He's going to be really solid in that flex support. Looking for him to pull out quality Zen, hopefully an Ana. I really like to see Ana in the meta nowadays, so hopefully he can show us a bit of that. Josiah on the DPS slot is going to be the next player I'm looking for. Supposedly, according to the information that this team has given us, he is a hit scan god, quote unquote. So Widowmaker not as prevalent in the meta as maybe a few months ago, but still more than capable of making an impact if you are good on that hero. The last player is going to be Vita Coco on the main tank role. Main tank's very important, but what's most exciting about this today is that back in Open Division, he played on a team called Arctic.gg, made it pretty far in the playoffs of NA Open Division. Now his off-tank duo partner, Hot Date, is going to be on the other team today. So I'm going to be looking for some mind games between those two. I'm going to be looking for them to read each other's plays, and whoever can come up best there, they're going to have a pretty solid advantage.
Oh, that's interesting. I like how detailed you got, especially because we haven't seen this team. Now, this other team, we have seen a little bit. In fact, one of the teams that they eliminated is awaiting the loser of this game down in the losers final. So without any other words being said, so I don't take too much from my analysts, Mukaibu, who is the path to poverty and what do we need to know about them?
So the team that they beat, Team Livid, like you said, they're currently waiting in the losers finals for whoever loses this. So we might get to see a rematch there. That match was a very good 2-1 match. Team Livid came out. They won Oasis pretty handily. And then for the other two maps, Path to Poverty was able to pull it out. What they like to run a lot of, they like to run triple support with Brig, but it's not always the infamous 3-3 comp that we've seen so much of. Sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's a single DPS comp. They've used Sombra. They've used a few other DPSs in that slow DPS role. Kind of a 3-3 plus a little bit extra damage and a little bit more ability to counter long-range threats. What we haven't seen a lot of is them being very flexible inside a map. A number of teams that we've seen in this tournament, they have their comfort picks, they have their comfort comp. They don't really deviate from it too much. I'm going to be mainly looking at 2 players, however, on this team. The first is going to be Jolfi. He's the captain, he's the main tank, and when you watch them, they absolutely live and die by Jolfi. When they're on a 3-3 composition, they all get behind the big square rectangle man and they push in. They all key off of Jolfi. If he's positioning well, if he's landing good fire strikes and charges, they do great. If he's struggling, the rest of the team, they're a little more tentative about what they do. For example, when they were running a dive-like composition, they just, once they scattered out, once they got pretty spread out, seemed a little bit more tentative. The other player I'm going to be watching is Suppose. He's on the Zenyatta. He's kind of a flex support. He played on Second Wind, so he's got a little bit of that Tier 2 experience, even though this is a Tier 3 tournament. So those are the two players that I'm going to be watching. Overall, as I watch these first few maps, what I'm really going to be looking for, if Path to Poverty gets on that 3-3 comp, can LFT bully them out of it with counter picks?
Okay, all right, I like that. We got some players to look out for. We've got two teams that we just to go over it again haven't lost this tournament. They have been on fire. They have been just moving through other teams. So this is going to be the first real test for either of them. And then whoever loses has to go down and play Team Livid, who are no slouches themselves. So today, game 1 to game 3 is going to be exciting. But analyst, I have to ask this though: is between these two teams, which way are we leaning? So who do you have winning this game? Paulsable, let's start with you.
It's a tough call, but I think I'm gonna go with Path to Poverty. I think that Tier 2 experience is really gonna come in handy. I think being able to solidly rally around that main tank of Jolfi is going to help them out a lot, especially since we all know Goats is great in the meta right now. If you can run the better Goats, you have a good chance of winning any map we go to.
I'm going to disagree. I'm going to go with LFT. They don't have any Darth of Tier 2-ish experience themselves. They've got a few players who are up in at least the Contenders trial stage. But the big thing that I'm going to be looking for is how well LFT can get onto a counter Goats composition once it comes out. I'm putting my trust in them to be able to pull out heroes like the Junkrat, like a Pharmacy, to just be able to crack a Goats composition, crack that 3-3. One thing I do want to bring up on that note, though, the new Torb, the Torb rework, is not enabled for this tournament. So that's one possible counter to Goats that we're not going to see.
Very, very true. Okay, my analysts are split, which means I have to decide who to go with. And you know what? I'm sorry, Paulsable, but I like the argument made by Mukaibu. I am going to go with him on this one. So we're going to go 2-1 as we get this lobby all set up and ready. Are there any final thoughts before we send it on over to our casters for the game?
Just one thing that I do want to note, we are using Overwatch Draft. We're not using the usual play one map of each game mode. So you're going to see that map pool. We're going to Lijiang first, and then it's loser pick from the other 4 maps.
Very true, very true. All right, we have Vowels and we have I Hold Shift on the cast. They're going to be excited and ready because today's excitement isn't going to stop. They're going to kick it off for us. I hope both of you are ready. Let's get them talking a little bit. Let's get their voices warmed up as we get ready to send it into map 1.
Thank you so much, Green Havoc. I Hold Shift here, Vols there, and we do have that winners finals coming up for you guys, starting off on Lijiang Tower, like they all mentioned with. And Vols, as we were talking about the Torbjorn not being involved, of course, Lijiang Tower, one of those control maps that we typically see a lot of that 3-3 composition. So what are you looking for out of these teams to potentially counter out maybe these Goats comps that we're going to take a look at throughout the series?
I'm mainly going to be looking at the Reinhardt battle here between Jolfi and Vita Coco, two well-known names in Tier 3. Vita Coco has had a wealth of experience on several teams, maybe most notably Kungana when he was picked up for that short-lived roster, but he's been around the block, he's been around a while, and he is a solid main tank. But Path to Poverty in particular, I think the Reinhardt battle is going to be their key to victory. Put all your resources into enabling Jolfi, win out the Reinhardt battle, take out your opposition main tank, and then unravel the 3-3 compositions from there. I think that's going to be the key to victory here for Path to Poverty.
Sure, and the other interesting thing, and this is something that I look at a lot when we look at as we kind of step down the ladder from Overwatch League, from contenders, from even the trials teams into where we are now, is these DPS players that traditionally had they probably play competitive playing DPS champions. Now they're on different either flex supports or flex off tanks like a Zarya that control that Zarya has, whether they're able to focus off those bubbles, make sure that they're actually triggering things like their graviton surge at the proper times. Those are the big kind of elements for me when I look at this, is the differences between your tier 3, tier 2, and tier 1 teams. What are some of the other elements of these teams as a whole as you take a look at T3 versus an Overwatch League, or as we'll see in a couple of weeks, the Overwatch World Cup?
it kind of comes down to just how specific you're getting in some of your movement rotations. Like, are you going to set up? Moving on to Lijiang Command Center as a main example, are you going to set up properly in White Room with your Reinhardt? Are you going to position him on the stairs so he's kind of off to the side, can get a couple extra swings in and build up his shadow quickly? Are you going to rotate around onto main to enable your Reinhardt even further? It's just putting so much more thought into all these movement patterns and your exact counters and how you use your cooldowns. Obviously, as the coaching gets more advanced and more available, then yeah, you can get more advanced with that. However, here in the tier 3 scene, it's not like there's an absence of coaching, but it's going to be a little bit more on instinct. How can these teams react with their gut reactions, I guess, and try and break down their opposition on the fly before talking back with their coaches later?
All right, well, those adjustments, we'll take a look to see who can possibly adjust quicker. As the death kit very nicely was the simple fact that both of these teams have yet to lose and have taken down some pretty considerable names as they were going through the qualifying stage, and now they are here in the winners finals trying to find that coveted spot in the grand finals with, of course, the winner's advantage. LFT will be in red, and we'll be seeing Path to Poverty in blue, and On Gardens first and foremost. And this is probably the one area of Lijiang that is a little bit more flexible to composition choices. But when you do see the 3-3 comp, a lot of teams like to avoid going over these narrow rock bridges. And can tell us a little bit why that might be, Vals.
It's because of the ever-present Pharaoh or Lucio Boop just sends you flying. You either jump off the side or go for a little bit of swim in the koi pond. It isn't way against the points that teams often take the bridge as their first route to the point, as both the teams are. You've got a nice standard 3-3 composition on the side of looking for theme, up against a dive from Path to Poverty, trying to enable Dove on the McCree pick.
Well, they were able to find that Reinhardt very quickly with Vita Coco, and that allows Dove to find extra damage on the McCree as Path to Poverty try to chew apart some of these frontliners. But the problem is the Zarya and the Brigitte are just so darn healthy, able to get a self-level off his KCI, and that's going to be enough to force everybody back as he's sitting near full charge. Angelic just trying to grind a 50-50 grind the rail here on the outside, will stay alive, but not able to contest the point, so the point will open up in favor of the team in red, LFT.
Yeah. And even though the map has effectively just started, Sun already has a rally up moving into the next fight, getting an extra bit of armor going onto everyone. That's how much work he was able to put into Brigitte, maybe in the absence of Vita Coco as well, just smashed through the opposition.
Well, Jolfi already switched off the Winston and now is on the Reinhardt, so he's significantly behind on that charge as well. Well, maybe not so because Vita Coco died early, but as they get onto point, the rally has been popped for LFT, looking for that first pick, and they'll find it at the big all. And now moving forward, they want to find more, but a really nice trigger of the Transcendence for the side of Path to Poverty. Can it stay alive through the self-destruct? No, it will not. So now numbers will be pretty much standard on the point, 4-on-4 action, but as we say, that Iron able to clean up two more. Jolfi does find himself an Earth Shatter, but there's just no follow-up as it was a solo shatter, and that will be the point staying in retention of LFT.
Yeah, there's a couple consolation picks for Path to Poverty at the end off the back of Jolfi's Earth Shatter, that maybe you want to take that back and reinvest that next fight, maybe combo it up with the Diva Bomb you've got here. If you can pull off that combo, it can be even more effective than the Grav Bomb combos we see so much. Vita Coco has his own Earth Shatter here for the defense. They're going to have a sound barrier as well. There's a couple tools coming online for Path to Poverty now as well.
And Dove was able to stay alive at nearly full charge, so 83% with some extra damage to tote for the blue Zarya of Path to Poverty. Earth Shatter comes out for Vita Coco, but doesn't find anything besides the shield of Jolfi, and now Sound Barrier is being traded, still looking for Dove to hit the trigger on this Graviton Surge, and now we'll put it right on top of the point. It will suck in a couple, but if he didn't respond to this KC, the numbers are still favoring the team in blue, which is good considering that we are at 88%, and it will hit about 90 before Path to Poverty will finally clean this one up and put it in their retention.
And it was a really nice initiation from Big Ol in particular for Path to Poverty there. Bursts his cooldowns immediately onto his counterpart Sun, gets him down to effectively 1 HP with the Anonade coming in as well, and then it's just dive in as quickly as you can, capitalize on that. There's your opening, Sun falls, and you just unravel the team composition from there. You've still got a couple tools on this defense as well, the Earth Shatter and the Diva Bomb are both online, coming back on a Nano Boost too, so Path to Poverty, they've got a way back into this round.
Absolutely do. Jolfi wants to find this trigger from the right-hand side perspective, and that's the one that I'm taking a look at as, again, you can see how timid LFT is to get there. Then he's stunned out, will be stunned, but gets nanoed and then boosted forward is going to be Jolfi, who's not even going to need to use the Earth Shatter for this fight, as they're already up in numbers pretty considerably, still forcing back LFT, and that will be enough for them to soft reset. Can they find one more pick? No, it will be Nishik just barely getting out of dodge, although I say that, and Suppose is able to snipe one more shot to take down Nishik, so it does result in a stagger of the Zenyatta.
And I believe it was a self-dart from Suppose actually right at the start of that fight. Caught some off guard. Diva Bomb comes in, gets one, but again, if you've got a 6v5 advantage in GOATs and you're not in a position to immediately lose one of your own players, you're going to win the fight now 9 times out of 10. You take a key component away from the enemy. Jolty still has this Surf Shadow. Dove's got the Graviton as well. Path to Poverty might be able to hold again.
Graviton Surge just to delay it. We're at 74% moving forward is Jolfi. Now he will hit the trigger on the Earth Shatter. It will stun a few, but the self-destruct that came out from Iron will actually gain enough space for them to at least not get taken down quickly, but they need the point. Does LFT, and Path to Poverty is not allowing that to happen whatsoever. They're continuing to push on forward now at 89%. It's gonna have to be one last dive from Iron potentially to touch this one. They're waiting for a full 6, but again, time is running low. They're gonna speed boost through, and nearly off the map goes KC, and off the map will go Vita Coco. There will be a touch, the sound barrier will come, but again, the numbers are just so much in favor of Path to Poverty as they lose Vita Coco. Did LFT, and with that comes an easy cleanup. There are no shields to soak the damage, and it will be Path to Poverty cleaning everything up and likely taking this as soon as overtime goes. If they can find OG, who will eventually fall, Vita Coco will give it a go, but he's not going to be able to touch for very long, and that cleanup will be it. Path to Poverty will take Gardens at 100 to 93%.
Moving into this map, I did highlight the Ryan battle, how I want to see that work out. But it hasn't been so much a pure Reinhardt versus Reinhardt battle as the story of Big Al on the Brigitte playing a much more complementary. Vita Coco is kind of on an island in a zone on the Reinhardt, kind of expected to make space while the rest of his team divvies out resources. For Path to Poverty, all roads lead through Jolfi. The moment he shows any sign of weakness, Big Ol is immediately behind him, throws in the shield bash, maybe the whip shot as well, clears some path for him to regain some space. He's got the Diva Bubbles on him permanently as well. He's got Suppose putting out so much healing, following up to Biotic Nades to give him room to breathe. You need to find a way to shut down Jolfi here, because he is just going to carry Path to Poverty to victory. Everyone is enabling him really well.
And the only real kind of stagger that we saw from Path to Poverty was the simple fact that Jolfi tried playing the Winston early on, and they didn't find much success, and it took them a while to get going, but immediately now Vita Coco on the aforementioned Winston, moving on in with a Doomfist, trying to get that backline dive. A big anti-nade does hit most of the frontliners, but they're able to soak it up fine and reset, pardon me, as they now move back forward as a full 6. But again, the Doomfist trying to get in, now using Biotic Grenade from Suppose just to keep everybody healthy. And this is a very staggered fight right in front of the Lion statues. It will go the way of the DMAC on Iron, which will not allow the LFT to really commit to fighting without those big bodies, and the point will go into control of Path to Poverty.
The name of the game here for LFT is Disruption. Break apart the 3-3 composition. Don't allow them to all enable each other and play around each other. Take the individual matchups and win the fight from there. While they did complete the first part of that, you split up the 3-3 composition. Everyone was kind of an island on their own. They couldn't actually capitalize off the back of it. Jolfi managed to get a nice DMAC onto Iron, and from there, you just had to call to retreat and back out again.
Oh, and Vita Coco is going to dive in, get boosted, but immediately hit by a Biotic Grenade. He doesn't have his monkey ultimate up, so we're not going to see that Primal Rage come out just yet. Sun will be taken down, and now Jolfi looking for that Earth Shatter, but it was an ambitious one. It doesn't really connect with too many, although they are able to finally punish Vita Coco just before he could get that Primal Rage off. And with the cleanup on the big bodies, once again, Path to Poverty dominate the team fight up front, and they contain the point at now 50% of Nuav.
I kind of like what LFT is going for. I see the idea behind it. They're trying to put all their resources into taking out Jolfi, but that's not the key part here. You need to be taking out Dove and Big Ol. Stop them enabling Jolfi, cut the legs from under him, and that's how you can unravel this team composition. They're putting so many resources into shutting down the Reinhardt. They just immediately cancelled out by the personal barriers, the shield bashes. You can't find any value with this dive.
Oh, Big Al is actually going to throw out a rally here, but not able to find all of his frontliners. From downtown comes an ultimate right out of Hot Date, which will find Vita Coco along with a couple of others trailing away and getting staggered in the back end. It will be the Diva running away back to spawn, and man, we have seen this, as I say, the Doomfist not do much, the Winston not do much, and Vals, they're desperate, and they're changing late.
Yeah, it's going to be a quick swap over to triple support. You've got Casey sticking onto the Sombra with the EMP. He did want to invest in that fight, but it was nice work from Angelic to take out the Sombra early. Meant LFT couldn't really do anything, and you just follow up the Graviton Bulb combo, and they can't even touch the point. It's a nice decisive 2-0 for Path to Poverty to win out Lijiang.
OG could not get into the point. It wasn't necessarily because he was being thwarted away from it. He just simply missed his wall ride into the point and isn't able to touch. Oh, that's absolutely devastating. It's hard to call that a letter number when you don't even touch the point to get off of it. And goodness, you talked about Dove, and you can't take away from what he was able to do. Look at that, 73% average energy with 21 high energy kills. You mentioned it, I think, perfectly, Viles. Dove was the one really shining, even though Jolfi did set that front line up for them. It wasn't just Jolfi. It was Dove on the backside and Big All as well. And I think those numbers speak for themselves.
Absolutely. The aggression from Jolfi demands so much attention that you don't really have any way to deal with the actual engine being in the composition. The Brigitte and Desire, we saw the Doomfist Sombra dive coming out to try and disrupt the triple tank, triple support composition, try and break them apart and isolate some of these key heroes, but they couldn't quite capitalize on it. They couldn't shut down Big Ol and Dove. And if you can't shut down them, you can't take out Jolfi, you can't unravel the rest of the composition. I feel like you've just got to keep trying to win the 3-3 composition. If you can't, if your Winston Sombra dive can't effectively deal with a triple tank, triple support composition, then your only real hope is to like maybe bring out a Farah, see how much value you can get out of that. Other than that, you're looking at just trying to win out the 3-3 war, and then it's just about changing your playstyle. Path to Poverty looking like the superior team so far on just about all fronts.
With the exception of that first iteration, again, it was that the fact that Jolfi was playing that Winston, they don't find success on that early frontline dive. And it's just interesting to see LFT try to do the same thing, but they're also throwing in a Doomfist to the mix. And it just, again, it looked like it was going to be a good start for them. Winston dives in, Doomfist follows up, the Biotic Grenade comes out of the Ana to help that push. And the fact of the matter is, Path to Pro was just able to back up very tactfully, get themselves recomposed, wait for the Biotic Grenade to kind of fade away, and then re-engage. They just looked really smooth. And those are the little moments that kind of get lost, I think, from first-person perspective when you take a look at, where are these flaws? Where are these holes? What is making this team not exactly the same caliber as, your teams that just went through Contenders Trials, for instance? Those are the things that really are hard to find in the moment, but pay dividends when they're successful for you.
Absolutely. And Path to Poverty are just looking like so much more of a well-oiled machine right now. They've got the clear comms, they've got the clear follow-up, like earlier when Sun on the Brigitte had all of the cooldowns dumped into him. He was 1 HP, he was anti-healed. He tried to peel back, hide behind his team, but the focus was there from Path to Poverty. The capitalization was there. They isolated the Brigitte, they took out the low-hanging fruit, and just unraveled from there. LFT, when they have those openings against Path to Poverty, they aren't able to successfully communicate. They aren't able to successfully capitalize on it. It's all a lot more disorganized and muddled. People trying to solo carry rather than playing the team game of Overwatch.
That's it. I'm so glad that you brought up that point, because there were all these moments, and we see it routinely in this tier of Overwatch, where someone holds on to an ultimate for so long because they want to be the big player. They have that monumental play, when sometimes just using it to take down one, maybe two, or just disrupting 1-2 targets that are key to your team's success are where you find things like a victory that was elusive to LFT. Next up, though, Viles, we have another very enclosed map, quite literally, as we'll go to the moon. We'll be on Horizon Lunar Colony.
Absolutely. Horizon teams, I feel like, are still maybe figuring out a couple of the kinks, kind of used to how original Horizon played, even though it's been some time since the rework. I'm expecting a lot of tank-heavy compositions again. Maybe you pull out the Sombra as well to play around some of the health packs around some of the points. We know how effective she can be on these 2 CP maps. You just snowball, you get 1 EMP, you win the point, and then capitalize off the back of that. It'll be interesting to see if it's actually a tank-heavy composition on the first point defense. However, teams often opt to run a Orisa D.Va-based composition here.
Right.
You send a D.Va down to contest the point while Orisa holds high ground, maybe pair it with a Junkrat and a Hanzo as well. It'll be interesting to see what looks team can come up with here.
And that's the thing that I really enjoy about this map, even though I'll be honest, this is probably my lowest win rate map in Overwatch. I don't know what it is about it. I'm just really, I never find success when I play this map in ranked. But you do see defenses pulling out very unique things. You mentioned the Orisa and the Junkrat, which are the first two things that my mind went to. But when you brought up the Sombra potential of having two of them, because again, Sombra is very popular on control point maps, I have not been convinced yet from the side of LFT that KC is going to be able to fully effectively utilize the Sombra. He used it for the majority of that last point on Lijiang. We didn't even see an EMP come out once. So if I'm looking at LFT, at least from my perspective, I need to see some convincing damage gameplay from LFT right now.
Absolutely. It's actually going to be a mirror Sombra matchup. It's the Orisa Diva composition, like I thought, with a Hanzo as well. But Dub's going to be picking up the Sombra, trying to deny some of these health packs and try and get some early scouting of what's coming out on the offense. I feel like KT, they've moved ahead. They've scouted. They're retreating back to spawn. They're going to make some composition switch. KT's actually going to move over to the Winston. This is a very interesting look we've seen with the rise of Wrecking Ball. Teams opting for almost a triple tank dive. You send one of your DPS players onto Winston. I look up, actually played a fair bit of it. It's not something I ever thought I'd see in Overwatch a couple months ago, but it's effective.
It can be effective if they can keep Coco alive. And here he comes, a very nice pile driver, bopping up 4 of them. But where's the damage follow-up? Sun was about 1 HP, had to back up. Finally, Iron is able to take out Jolfi. Without that Orisa being here, this was one of the weaknesses I was going to kind of mention if we had the time files, was once that Orisa falls, you really have no way of contesting. And that's exactly what's happening here as Sun is able to chase down Big Ol. And from here, it looks like it's just going to be a stagger as the point will start to tick up.
Yeah, so maybe could have capitalized on this fight a little bit cleaner earlier, but they're going to get it effectively.
Yeah. And now Jolfi tries to move through.
He is getting shut down.
And he's not able to quite get there. Now as right when the moment is right, the Sombra is able to hit the EMP from Dove and looking for a chance to recontest this one finally, but it has been 2.5 ticks. Numbers are still in good favor for the team in red, but with that minefield being down, will they be able to fully get off this? Oh, there it is. I was like, can they get off the rest of this blade? It didn't find much damage, but they're able to dodge and weave around, and that will be enough for them to control the first point.
And that, because Path to Poverty went for such a late defense there, it's allowing LFT to go for a really early push. But you can't afford that. Vita Coco tries to get aggressive, tries to capitalize on the point, and gets shut down immediately by Big Ol.
Not exactly what I would have called a situation for a potential snowball. Yeah, you win the fight, but there was only really one more opponent to take off for LFT, and they kind of pushed their cards, I think. They went all in before they really had the hand they wanted to there, Vols.
Yeah, the upside there for LFT was that you forced out a lot of ultimates from Path to Poverty to try and put up that defense. Suppose an Angelic in particular making the swap of the Mercy onto Lucio, used the Valkyrie, supposed to have invested the Nano Boost as well to try and put up a defense. It's going to be whole scale changes. Big Ol's going to come up with a cheeky Dragon Blade just to zone everyone away, and it actually kicked out Sun.
And that was good because Sun was away from the team, able to find some good separation, even though it wasn't exactly the biggest of ultimates from Big Ol. It was big enough to find one pick, and again, look at how much time is continuing to take off the clock here from that.
Yeah, Big Ol's now going to make a recon to the counter Brigitte, try and negate some of this dive, and that's what's so hard about pushing these second point of these assault maps. You lose the first pick, it's effectively your push over. You just need to reset, go back to spawn, wait to come back, and then go again. But you need to take initiative. You can't afford to be losing these early picks.
Well, LFT will try to feign their movement through the research lab and then come right back onto point, trying to find a way to get that early capture, but not giving any room. Is Path to Poverty, as Hot Date is able to find themselves a DMAC and a kill on the Sun, which will actually turn into the mini diva also falling away. Jolfi in the Wrecking Ball will try to chase down a couple, and it will be successful as they find a couple more staggered picks before everything's all said and done. A full reset has to come out for LFT.
There is some upside for LFT there, though. You only invested a sound barrier into that fight, and you drew out, what? The EMP, the Nano Boost, the Diva Bomb. You're gonna have the ultimate advantage moving forward now. You've got a deep self-destruct of your own. You're gonna have the Deadeye coming up on the Transcendence too. LFT have a lot of tools to try and crack open this point. If they can get smart with the positioning and use the Deadeye to zone away the opposition, they might be able to get off a huge self-destruct here.
And I'm actually looking at KC to see what he can do in the Deadeye, considering that there's not much shielding in his way, without having that Reinhardt or even a Winston there to really kind of negate possibly that Deadeye. Where is he going to set this one up? The Transcendence right on top of him in the back line. KC able to take down both supports. It was just as big as they needed it to be, and now taking care of Hot Date. Looking like a very cool evening. Gets taken down, and the first point will surely go away. Can they find the second tick before contest? Looks like yes. Need to find, oh, maybe not, as actually just in the last second, it was going to be dubbed to contest. Self-destruct comes out the zone. Jolfi doesn't touch. He's right there, and how many times are we going to see this, Vols? The defending team just not able to put a single pinky toe on the point when it matters most.
You hate to see it. Maybe you want to leave Spawn just a second earlier, try and get back, but you do what you can in those situations, and sometimes it just comes a bit unlucky. KC, though, giving Mahomes for one of his money for the name of the biggest gunslinger in KC.
Yeah.
Comes up with a really good Deadeye. It's actually a great rotation from LFT, I want to highlight. There was no room to run for Suppose and Angelic. They had no chance to escape once the High Noon came out. And then it's just capitalizing the fight off there. 3.5 minutes on the time bank, though. It's not the end of the world, considering especially how quickly the first point went. You've got to take away some positives from that second point defense for Path to Poverty.
I'm trying to search for those positives, Vals, but I'm coming up a bit empty right now after that deflation that we just saw at the very end. And yeah, 3.5 minutes is a pretty, that's a solid time as you take a look at it from LFT's perspective. No. And if you're Path to Poverty, you have to at least match that. I mean, you have to assume this thing's going to go at least 4 points in the long run, as it typically does.
If you're Path to Poverty, you know how cleanly you won those first couple of fights, how well you were able to stagger out LFT and capitalize on their lack of communication, lack of organization. It wasn't until that one rotation came out that you just didn't react quickly enough to and get Suppose and Angelic out of harm's way. So if you can play a bit smarter, obviously play a bit smarter. Everyone would like to play that, but don't get lenient. Don't rest on your laurels. If something weird is coming up, it's probably planned. It's probably going to come up with something big. Don't give into those rotations. I think if Path to Poverty can keep playing their own game like they were on Lijiang and they were at the start of this map, they're going to have a much better time.
Well, how about a dive defense for LFT as they try to move into the back when they find Suppose first and foremost. Iron is actually tracking down Angelic and will find the kill. And now it's all of the dust in the wind as everybody wearing blue, they can't seem to find a teammate as everyone gets staggered out completely. That is what a successful dive defense looks like off the go.
It's dive versus dive, the old versus the new, the Genji and Tracer versus the Sombra and Doomfist. There is a bright spot as Dove manages to find two and get way back into the backlines near LFT spawns. You might have a bit of an interesting angle here to try and get onto the backline.
I like this play from Jolfi. He says, well, you can't dive my backline if you have to deal with me on point, and we'll put the focus there first and foremost. Sun and Vita Coco in the backline again. Suppose and Angelic are on their own. Oh, fortunately, the damage coming out from Jolfi on the opposite side of the fight was good enough. And no! OG throws a nano boost onto an already D-macking Diva, so that will essentially be wasted, and Dove will have a absolute feast. And that'll be enough for the first point to go in just about the same amount of time. 2 minutes and 35 seconds on the clock. Wow, what a play.
Dove causes absolute havoc in the backline. You've forced so many resources to go back just to deal with the Tracer. Obviously, Nishik is trying to fight for his life. OG is there with the biotic grenade. Iron has to invest as a defense matrix as well. It's a 3v1 to try and deal with Dove, and that opens up to 5v3. You just win the snowball. Dove still finds 2 picks. Great work from Path to Poverty.
Oh, KC pulls the trigger on the EMP. Maybe a little bit early, maybe not. Still up for debate, although now, with a couple of kills being found right in the research lab, it looks like Sun will say thank you for starting that fight off, KC, as he cleans up too and finally gets himself going. This is the first moment we've seen this Doomfist really shine.
The EMP only actually manages to pick off Suppose, but you still find a pick on the Ana anyway, and you force the rotation into a small room against the Doomfist. You don't want to be in a small room against a Doomfist. That's never going to end well for you. There's a lot of ultimates coming online for both sides now. If Big Ol can get a Nano Blade going, maybe it can counter out the fact that there's no EMP on the line for LFT again. This is your opening. You've got to take the fight now before the EMP comes back up. He's already halfway there.
Yes, it is, and the Transcendence is also there. Big Ol will be boosted into the Big Ol Blade in the backline. Does get himself purpled, and OG will stay alive thanks to that Transcendence. So the Blade being boosted up results in essentially nothing. Vita Coco also is in the primal rage to help this defense stay a little bit more on top of itself. Now Sun wants to pop up. Self-destruct trading on point will zone everybody away. The Meteor Strike to negate and come right back down for Sun. Will not be able to find a kill, and will actually be taken out by Hot Date. So now all of a sudden, with no alternates, it's actually going the way of Path to Poverty. KC wants to change it, but him and the Sunshine Band won't be able to convert off of an EMP. And with that, it looks like numbers are favoring the team in blue, as now Jolfi is back in the fight, but they have to get through a lot of big bodies. Iron will actually be the last one as he gets demech, but now they have to deal with slippery opponents, as Nijik is trying to stay on the point for as long as possible, won't be able to do so, and at 4 minutes and 30 seconds, it might just be enough for them to find the third point. A couple of desperation switches coming through as Sun flips back over to the Doomfist and looking for a way to keep this in contest, but there's just too many numbers here, Vals, and Path to Poverty, they look like they're on the way to potentially cleaning this one up in about the same amount of time that LFT did. There will be one more blade to try to clean everything up at the end, and that'll be enough for the full clean. One more to get rid of, that's Vita Coco. Slept in the backline as OG. Vita Coco has to bail on off, and that will be the third point going to Path to Poverty.
And dragging it way back to the fight that started it all, it was a really nice peel from Angelic. Supposed to kind of left out on his own, getting in position to set up the nano boost. The dive came through with KC and Vita Coco and Iron as well following up. You send 3 players after the Diana. You think it's a guaranteed kill, but Angelic comes out of nowhere, invests a sound barrier. Sure, you're investing onto 2 people, but combine that with the speed boost, you've just taken 3 players out to fight. You've left a point wide open for the offense to sweep in, and that just opens it up for Path to Poverty to push in. Looking like their own team again, able to take initiative in some of these fights. This is the Path to Poverty we were seeing on Lijiang, and this is the dominant team I'm really enjoying watching.
Yeah, and on top of that, I think they did exactly what they needed to do. I think they would have wanted to have that last defense back, would Path to Poverty. They don't get, obviously, that chance to do so. They have to come forward and kind of make up their ground by essentially resetting the entire match, which is what they essentially do, and they give themselves an extra roughly 30 seconds to, more than 30 seconds, probably about 40 seconds to get this a little bit more in their favor. But as you move into the second point, again, we've seen the defenses start off strong and then not be able to win late fights. What are you looking for as far as a change when it comes down to adjusting there?
It's just longevity. We've seen the case for both teams is that you take a couple fights away from the defense where they have to invest 1 or 2 ultimates, don't invest anything of your own, and then you come into a fight with 4 ultimates online and just win it out easily. I do want to highlight quickly, Casey has been putting in a much better shift on the Sombra so far on Horizon than we saw in Lijiang, able to get some clean EMPs off, causing much more disruption in the backline that his team is able to effectively capitalize off. It was interesting at first. We saw the Wrecking Ball, the Doomfist, the Sombra, a nice interesting dive coming out on the offense. The scout comes through some Sombra, they make a change, you know what it is. It's Mira, it's Ana, triple tank, triple support. Just bash their heads against the wall.
Well, and with the time limit, I think that has a lot to do with the competition that we're seeing. Vita Coco! Oh my goodness, he has just put himself in Azerbaijan, and everyone's turning for him, and it leaves Jolfi and Big Ol up for grabs, and that's going to be enough for LFT to get a nice 2-for-1 trade to start and 2 points. Someone's got to touch, but I don't even know if they're not even going to. Path to Poverty is just going to let this one go off of a monster shift in from Vita Coco.
And that's what we call the shotgun. You send in the Reinhardt charge, you follow it with the personal barrier, have a nice biotic grenade from the capitalizer as well, and it just completely splits apart from the defensive positioning. They have to kite back to the point quickly, luckily able to capitalize on the fact that the offense has to regroup before they give too much away. Ooh, these are some interesting changes actually. Sun is going to be moving over to the Farah now. We're getting a dive coming out with the Hanzo. OG maybe on the Mercy for just a moment, moves back to the Lucio. This is really interesting. I really like this Farah on second point. We don't see it too often, but it's going to be really good at splitting open this defensive composition.
Well, my biggest thing is they only have 2 minutes, a little bit, and change to build up these fresh ultimates, and that's really what they're going to need, because take a look at what is on board for Path to Poverty. They have a lot in the tank coming up here in the near future to help delay this, and again, if you're just looking for ultimate charge, you need to find some kind of an angle, and to be honest, Path to Poverty is doing a really good job of making sure not a lot of angles are being found. Hot Nate's taking a little bit too much damage and will back up, but all of this poke is not confirming for much health. Now finally, Sun wants to move a little bit in, getting a little bit impatient, boosted up as Hot Nate, who will chase down that floating Farah, and will actually back up all of LFT, so a really good stall so far for the defense.
Yeah, even though Hot Date, maybe it looked like he was getting too aggressive, nearly got taken out, it was actually a really smart play to guarantee you get enough healing, get another boost off. Doesn't fight too much in an under boost, and now Casey's popping off. Finds Pose, finds Jolfi, that's burst this point wide open.
Oh, but the Mercy gets taken down, so the trade's going to be worth it. The Dragon Strike comes right through the middle, and the Twin Dragons will take down absolutely nothing. The Graviton Surge pulls in Sun, but is there enough damage to take down the Farah? Yes, there is, says Jolfi, as he switches to the Wrecking Ball. Now the Sound Barrier from Angelic, again, keeping Path to Poverty in this fight, and it looks like they're going to clean up the last couple, and now we're in that kind of pinch period. We're under 60 seconds, and we need to see some big ultimates come out.
And the sound barrier comes through at just the right moment, literally 0.1 of a second before Suppose had an arrow to the face. Keeps him alive, keeps that crucial Ana healing going, the nice biotic grenade to follow up on as well. And now Path to Poverty, you've got the rally, maybe you're going to have the nano boost again during this fight. Dove's going to move over to the Tracer to just cause disruption in the backline. But Sun's got the barrage, you've got the Primal Rage as well. It's do or die time. You need to find value here.
Very well could be the last fight, although we only have 30 seconds. We anticipate an overtime will last a little bit longer, although maybe not, because we've seen teams refuse to touch the point in overtime. And it looks like that might be potential cause for concern here as we're down to 15 seconds. Now finally, boosted his Sun, will throw out a barrage. He finds Suppose, which is a valuable trade, onto the Ana, and still boosted up and trying to find damage on a big ol'. Able to sidestep a couple of grenades, but will be thrown into the mix and taken down by KC, who's getting down tonight with the Sunshine Band, as they're able to find a couple more picks on the point as well. It's just Jolty left alive, but he's boosted and very survivable. Needs to delay as long as possible, and will swing to and fro he goes, looking like a carnival ride from the State Fair, and now punching down with the minefield. Will that be enough space created to keep the defense in it? It looks like it might be, at least for a little longer. Jolty's still in this fight, although he will be by a grenade to the self-destruct. Now is the last chance for LFT. They finally find the first hit, looking for that desperate second one. Hot Date will throw out a self-destruct, which will be encased by a Winston bubble, but still the numbers are funneling in. Point by point, conga line by conga line, the meteor strike goes up, looking for a way to come down, and will find Suppose. LFT continue to find the numbers advantage and find themselves some picks, but they still need to find that second tick, and the overtime has lasted for so long. They step off, it will go away, but now finally the second, looking for the third. Jolty will come in, get slept, and then immediately blown up. Hot Date will not be able to touch in time, and goodness, that was a clutch fourth point for LFT.
And LFT, to kick off that fight, invests so many ultimates into trying to get value out of Barrage. Sometimes Barrage can be a death sentence. You pop it, you maybe find one kill, but you immediately get taken out yourself. They throw in a nano boost to give Sun some extra survivability and the extra damage output. Vita jumps up immediately with the Winston barrier to give him a nice protective bubble. The defense matrix is there as well. You put so many resources into Sun with the Barrage, and sure, it works. He stays alive, but you only get one pick out of it. It forces the fight to go into overtime when it could have been a lot cleaner. And although they do eventually win out the overtime fight, for the amount of resources you put into setting up that Barrage, maybe you wanted to get a little bit more clinical value out of it. That said, bygones are bygones. You still won the fight. It was probably going to be in overtime anyway. And now you've got a hold for about 4 minutes. It's pretty standard. We've seen teams do this before. Going to be some interesting competition coming out on this defense again. It's going to be the Junkrat, this time paired with the Soldier instead of the Hanzo. So maybe a little bit less effective at breaking shields, but he's still got it. He can track really well some of these mid-air dives. He's got the biotic field for some extra survivability as well. I do like this Soldier pick, especially with some of the changes to his spread in the recent patch. Soldier and McCree are starting to find their way back into the meta, and I really like some of these Orisa Junkrat Soldier defense we're starting to see more.
And for me, it comes down to what lines of sight will KC be allowed, and beyond that, how can Sun help support with the burst damage from that grenade launcher? And that's the big question that will be posed, and immediately there actually will be a pretty significant stagger between frontline and backline. For the side of Path to Poverty, you can see the D.Va is just waiting for the rest of the team to find a way across. Meanwhile, Dove is trying to scout out the point and will offer some contest onto it, and then immediately blink around and open up some space for Jolty to dive into the high ground. He's looking at Vita Coco, but then says, you know what? I don't really want to fight the Orisa. Let's just go back down onto point and force everybody down to us. And that's working out pretty well, as it will be a pretty significant split between Iron and the rest of the team. And Iron is in a little bit of trouble, is getting healed up nicely by OG, and finally Sun is able to find himself a kill on the Dove, and that might be enough for the numbers to survive. But Jolty goes into a Primal Rage, but immediately gets trapped. That's the Omega Feels Bad fan, and that ultimate essentially wasted. OG will actually get the res onto KC, so numbers will sustain for LFT.
And that's the other reason you pick up this composition on defense. Dove gave you such a gigantic headache on the initial offense, just wrecking havoc in the backline on Tracer. But into these compositions where you've got the Soldier of the Helix rockets, the Defense Matrix from the Diva to just eat up all your shots, Orisa to halt and pull and fortify to shut you down, and then, of course, Sun with the Junkrat spam, the traps, the concussion mines. It is so much harder to find value as a Tracer moving into this composition. That's why we're seeing Dove swapping off now, moving on to the Sombra. Gives him a little bit more survivability, not reliant on his blinks, can instead teleport away. Maybe get a couple hacks off. But taking out 2 minutes already, it was good work to shut down Dove.
Oh, and what a play that was from Big Ol. I don't know if he meant to do it or not, but he slashes right through Sun's ultimate while he got the boosted blade. He will find one more pick, but again, KC able to respond and find himself a kill on the point, come to supports, but there's just not the bodies or the health pulls there. OG will actually trigger the Valkyrie with the supercharger and go into Battle Mercy mode. And underneath 2 minutes, a lot of ultimates were expended from LFT, as well as Path to Poverty, and nothing was really gained for it.
Yeah, sometimes you need an eye for an eye, sometimes you need a nano boost for nano boost. Big Ol finds early value off the nano blade, but the nano boost came out in response onto KC, pops to the nano visor, you've got a self-struck coming out as well, and that shuts down the offense with some trades, nice capitalization, and that's huge! Catching Big Ol off guard, shutting down, you're going to force the offense to go hobbling back to spawn. They're going to have a minute left on the clock by the time they go for this now. And with some of these ultimates getting online for LFT, you're probably going to have if this fight gets drawn out, you're going to have the visor, you're going to have the nano boost, you're going to have the self-struck coming online again. It's do or die time for Path to Poverty now.
Jolfie will jump right in. He was so close to landing right into that trap from the Junkrat, but doesn't actually find it. Still going up, going down, finally finding Sun. Now onto the point. Dove is there, has to duel out with KC and does not like the looks of that, and will translocate back and find a more susceptible target of the Mercy. And now with both supports being down, an opportunity starts to knock from Path to Poverty. They have 44 seconds to get this point, and it looks like they will do so after getting those picks on those supports from LFT. Still have to go through Iron. They'll do that successfully, but the stagger of time is all that Iron was looking for, and those couple of seconds were big. So this point will now go and get 3-4 with very little time to win this next fight. The fortunate thing though, Vals, a lot of ultimates have been charged.
The most crucial part of that was that Path to Poverty managed to win the fight without investing all those ultimates.
Yeah.
It might have been so tempting to just dump everything you had in to guarantee the fight, but then you'd be moving into effectively one fight on the second point with an ultimate disadvantage.
Attack visor going off from the back right, looking for a way to get some damage onto Big Ol. Has already sliced on through with the blade once again, and finally finding capitalization and immense value. That's going to be the second tick, looking to be the third. Can anyone touch in time? They're zoning out the Wrecking Ball, but OG able to finally touch for a small second. KC also swift into the Doomfist. Iron, one of the last ones left. The desperate swaps are coming through, but there's all 6 members of blue here. Although as I say that, Nishik finds himself a nice biotic grenade, but it's just not enough. It's still a 4-on-2, everything's said and done, and we're through round 4. We're drawn up an even 4-4.
Yeah. Al lives up to his name and goes big. That's why you say hold on to these ultimates. That's why you try and win out the first point offense without dumping them. You can snowball. You can go with the nano blade. Cause disruption with the EMP as well. There was no chance for the defense, and it wasn't even in overtime. It's only 4 seconds, but there is still a very slight advantage for Path to Poverty here. We're going to move into the third round of Horizon Lunar Colony now. Both teams have about a minute on the time bank. This is where you see the Hail Mary throws. This is where your back's against the wall. You've got to come up with something big to try and win out the first team fight, because you're not going to have a chance, especially with the run-up on Horizon Lunar Colony. You're not going to have a chance to go again. You need to make your first offense count, and then if not, you're going to be scrambling to touch point in overtime.
You know, I hate to hear you sell those 4 seconds so short. Those 4 seconds could be massive for all we know. I'm just kidding. But no, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, when we get to this, especially on Horizon, we very rarely see more than maybe 2 total ultimates charged in this minute, because everyone really does just seem to dive on the point. There's really not enough of an area to poke and prod and build ults. It comes down to these dry vanilla fights, and look at this. We might actually see May come out for that extra stall tactic, and it will be LFT first and foremost. But look at this. Dove is all the way forward, getting all of this information, and will likely see that with this. Oh, did he see the May? The May might still switch. They're waiting, and look at this, a late swap coming out. It will be Perdita and the Zarya switches.
It's a risky strategy for Path to Poverty here, running with the dive defense when they've been running resistance before. You don't see dive defense too often in Horizon. You can kind of make it work, but Joffrey needs to be really careful playing right in the face of this 3-3 composition.
Biotic Grenade does hit from Suppose to catch a couple, and they want to convert on that, but what timing was that from Nishik to counter response to the Biotic Grenade of his own? Now everybody is full, and all of a sudden the defenders are out of position as all 6 players wearing red will go up. They'll come all the way around, clear the high ground out, and then look to come back to the point. I like this positioning in this move a lot. They'll come back from the hydroponic tank, pardon me, as now finally on the point they go. Overtime will fade in. Vita Coco finds a huge charge on the Jolty without that Winston being here. Are there enough numbers or health pools to contest? They need to find a way to survive as long as possible. The threat of being snowballed is very much so there. Big Ol, he wanted to hit the blade, but fortunately he will retain charge as KC took him down just before he was able to get the blade fully unsheathed. That will be the entire first point, though, going the way of LFT.
You can't die with crucial ultimates in these overtime fights. Jolfie can't go down with the Primal Rage to deny any stalling capability. And Beagle, as soon as the Nano Boost comes out, you can't die with the Blade. That was your opportunity to hold first. It's gone out the window. You need to come up with something huge now.
EMP coming out with the boosted blade as well. Part of it is a naked blade. There is no nano boost available. I suppose at only 55%, but still they're able to find 1 kill. On the backside of things, though, the frontliners for LFT are sustaining rather nicely. Jolfie is low. They'll find that control. It's just Big Ol left alive as a damage to it, but he's found a target in Nishik, but he's not able to finish. He gets a clutch bubble from KC. The first point gets found. The second point, can they have the numbers to push this to a 6 on the scoreboard? Trying to stop that from happening, though, are now coming back with the respawns for the side of Path to Poverty, and they've cleaned up KC. That's the big damage dealer for the side of LFT, and it looks like with that will come kills and staggered at that from Big Ol. They will clean this one up, but at what cost, Files? It's this Vita Coco and Iron left alive. OG will try to stall for a little bit longer, but the Biotic Grenade was good. Vita Coco will have the shield, but it's just not enough. The pulse bomb comes out. They try to get KC on the point. He will actually find 1, but that's not going to be enough. But still, 5 points on the board plus 2 ticks. That's one heck of a third round for the side of LFT.
Yeah, if you're Path to Poverty, there's good news. That went slightly better than the very worst it could have gone. If you're going to die with those huge ultimates on first point, you need to be finding value out of them. They dump the EMP, the Primal, and the Dragon Blade as soon as the offense pushes on the second point, and they find what? 1 kill? Vita Coco dumps the Earth Shatter, KC dumps the Graviton, and then the snowball starts to come through. Even though it only secured 2 ticks, that's still 2 ticks. That's still a huge uphill climb with only a minute on the board for Path to Poverty if they want to win out Horizon Lunar Colony. There is one upside for us, Iron Shift. This is definitely our final round of Horizon Lunar Colony. We're not going to go to. We're not going to be a 6-6 situation where we've got to go again. We're going to know definitively now. Is it our Path to Poverty going to be able to push through, or are LFT going to be able to finally put up a defense and shut out the opposition?
Go again! Gotta see it one more time. I know you probably love that more than anybody. I'll take your silence as a very definitive no. Look at this little crouching conga line right now.
It's so. You want to talk about Hail Mary plays in time bank rounds? This is your Hail Mary play. It's an incredibly aggressive hold from LFT. They want to catch the opposition off guard, but the rotations actually can't come out on the way from Path to Poverty. They've got a clear path to the point now. LFT is suddenly the offense.
They're a little confused. You can see everyone in blue looking around, and now they finally see it. But they have point control, and that's exactly what you want. There's nobody wearing red that can go up into the high ground and contest this from the up above. So now it's going to be easy charges coming through, and Jolty will get bubbled immediately after. He's already at 83%. We might just see an Earth Shatter early. He might not even need one, though. I guess not even going to make a difference as Jolty doesn't get taken away. Looking to fight on this point. There's still 25 seconds. Do you soft reset? Do you continue to fight? They're not quite sure. With that D-Mech onto Iron, though, it looks like Path to Poverty will take their advantage and possibly keep this baby Diva away from getting that full mech. 14 seconds left. Starting to get down to desperation mode. We have a couple of ultimates that are close for Path to Poverty. M, the first 2 ticks, the Coalescence comes out. Vita Coco tries to charge in, but gets booped away. Boosted his dub, and with those kills, I think Jolty will hold on to the Earthshatter as they will try to clean this one up without having to use it, and looks like they will do so successfully. Ooh, it was close though, Vals. Let me tell you, I was on the edge of my seat for a little bit too long than I wanted to be.
LFT, you tried so hard to come up with something huge on the defense. So unlucky that Path to Poverty managed to decide to rotate round the other way. You get caught off guard, and now Path to Poverty, even though Jolty whiffs the Earthshatter, they've still got four ultimates to dump into this fight now.
Why would you not wait for the Graviton Surge first, Jolty? Hot Date says, I'll clean that one up. Will find himself 3 with the self-destruct, and that's a full team fight. Sun has tried to do something cheeky to go onto the Bastion, but that didn't pay off as well, so it looked like almost a catastrophe. Hot Date says, not tonight. They'll finally take Horizon Lunar Colony in one heck of a standoff.
You know, it was a Hail Mary defense, you gotta give it credit, but sometimes your Hail Mary gets intercepted, and then sometimes that interception becomes a pick 6. Blows up hugely in their face. It's really unfortunate, but that's gonna be Path to Poverty. Looked a little bit antsy, a little bit up against the wall. Looks like LFT might be able to take the map off them, but nah, Path to Poverty is gonna be moving up 2-0 in the series now.
Whew. Best of 5 series being up 2 maps after that. That's got to feel good for Path to Poverty. They are 1 map away from securing themselves in the grand finals. And that's got to be a big weight off your shoulders, to be completely honest. To go into grand finals, yeah, nobody is in a bad spot technically because you are in the top 3. But again, to have that winner's advantage going into the grand finals would feel great. Not there yet, though, Vals. And with a couple of moments that had us all during the middle of that fight, it's not exactly over yet by any stretch of the imagination for LFT.
No. And you want to talk about a big weight off Path to Poverty's shoulders? How about a big weight off our shoulders? Because it's not us who's got to break down with Justine. It's the lovely analyst desk. Take it away.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yes, we do. You know what? We have to break it down. But I feel like I Hold Shift and Vowels could basically put out a new rap album with what we saw just on Horizon, with how much information had to be just flooding out of their mouth at any given moment and trying to break down what they need to be changing and doing in between fights. So I'll take having to do the post analysis. And luckily, I don't have to do it alone because I've got Paulsable and Mukaibu here to help me do it. So Mukaibu, we've seen a lot of Overwatch for a first half, but what's your biggest takeaway as far as these 2 teams in this game so far?
My biggest takeaway is that LFT is still struggling to find that answer to a GOATS composition. Pretty much every time that Path to Poverty gets on GOATS, they're going to take that point. So LFT, they're still kind of looking around trying to figure out, okay, what's the combination of swaps that we're going to go to? We've seen a dive-ish comp. We've seen Somber Doomfist. We've seen them run GOATS as well with some success, just 6 tanks and 6 supports mauling each other on the point. But nothing has really stuck. Path to Poverty, they've really been able to make that bread and butter composition work for them. And then when they have gone off of it, so when LFT, for example, goes pharmacy, they do lose something, but they respond eventually.
Very true, very true. Paulsable, what about you? We've seen these teams clashing. What are the takeaways that you've seen that you want to highlight from this game so far?
I do really think it's the front line coming out strong right now for Path to Poverty. Vita Coco looking very good on that main tank role, but I think the synergy between Hot Date and Jolfi right now, just absolutely beautiful. There was one play in particular I want to highlight on Horizon on, I think it was the second attack. I don't know. It all blends together. But when they, when PTP run dive into attack, Hot Date forces OG around a corner out straight into the waiting arms of Jolfi, where he's like, yes, I will kill you now, Mercy. Thank you for coming here today. And it was a beautiful little micro play there to really open that specific attack up. And it's been plays like that all over the place for Path to Poverty that have really given them the edge here.
And you know what? And I'm going to kind of expand off of that a little bit because we saw a lot of different team comps in just Horizon. We saw dive, we saw variations of dive, we saw goats, variations of goats. I mean, 2 tanks, 3 tanks. We basically, the only thing we didn't see was 3 DPS. So which was the comp that stood out the most? Mukaibu, we'll go to you first for this, but what was the comp that stood out the most to you as effective or just the right change at the right moment?
Do I have to say it's the 3-3? Because it kind of was the 3-3. If you look at the pushes right at the end that got the most value, so Path to Poverty's final push, it was the 3-3. And yes, LFT kind of gambled it all on a 50-50 shot of which way PDP was going to go. But in the end, it's in this meta, it's still really hard to get away from just how much beef that the 3-3 comp can put on point.
And especially because there's just that extra level of synergy that you need to have with when you're not running that 3-3 comp that we saw, where it's like the dive looked great in one push and then just the next push it just misses by the inches, where it's just easier to kind of force the confrontation with the 3 tank 3 support strategy. But Paulsable, so far, who's been the big player of this match? Who's been the one that opens things up and shuts things down when their team needs them to?
Well, like I said, the tank line of Path to Poverty really coming up strong here, but I also got to give a shout out to KC. I think he's had some really clutch plays that have just sort of come out of left field. He opens up that first attack with a really nice Deadeye. He got some quality grabs, some quality picks on Hanzo. Just really coming up clutch when he needs to, no matter what hero he is playing.
Okay. All right. All right. So we are going to be getting ready to send it back here soon. But before we're at that point, are we sticking with our picks? So.
Oh, absolutely. Path to Poverty all the way.
Okay.
Go.
Okay.
Let's go.
I'll say I'm hoping for the 3-2 sweep, but LFT's inability so far to find a good answer to GOATS has me really feeling kind of worried. I would love to see them bring out more Pharmacy, because the one time LFT did bring out Pharmacy, Path to Poverty didn't really seem to know what to do against it. LFT was able to win that attack of the one of the 6 on Horizon, so hoping to see a little bit more of that. I'm going to keep hope it's alive for a reverse sweep, but I'm not too optimistic.
Yeah, and I'm not sure Sun was quite as clutch as you wanted him to be on that Pharah until he got the nano barrage off onto a single target to open it up. So even if they pull out the Pharmacy, I'm still rooting for Path to Poverty.
All righty. Well, there we go. There we go. We're going to be heading on over to Numbani. So I hope deep breaths were taken and glass of waters were got for our casters, because I'm sure it's going to stay just as hectic and as exciting as it was in the last 2 maps. So I hold shift. Vowels, it's back on over to you guys. Let's see the second half of this game.
Havoc, I'm all out of water. Dad, help me. We're back. We're ready for more Ild Shift. He's Vals. Do you have some kind of a beverage to keep you going, Vals? Because I am cashed right now.
I got big old bottle of water.
I was not as prepared as I thought I was for that action. And we've got more of it, starting off with Numbani. So take me through Numbani, because this is a very interesting hybrid map as we take a look at it, mostly due to the fact that this first point is a giant funnel when it comes down to it. You have a couple of very limited pathways to get through, and when you get to the point, everyone and everyone's mom is looking at you when you get there.
Yeah, Numbani, first point, I'm holding out hope that we aren't going to see tank-heavy compositions here. They aren't as effective as running the dive compositions because of just how important the high ground is. It fully envelops the first point of this map. You need to be able to dive to contest high ground, have that mobility to jump up, jump down, jump up, jump down, back and forth. That said, because I'm so invested in seeing dive here, maybe even the Pharmacy as well as play around some of these corners, even though it's a wide open space, Farah can find some value. Even though I'm so invested in dive, I know it's going to be tank-heavy compositions because that's what we've seen so far from these teams. I do think Mukai was right that when Sun brought out the Farah, that was a bright spot for LFT, and if you maybe bring out the Farah again, that could give an opportunity here. But even more so, on the first point, especially on the defense, if you can set up a hit scan hero, the Soldier, or the McCree on Casey's behalf on the high ground, you can get a lot of value out of it as well, maybe bunker it down with an Orisa as a change away from the dive. So I think there are a couple of options for LFT here to put up something different that isn't just these tank-heavy compositions again.
Well, there's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts, and howevers, and a lot of things to consider, and that's when things become fun. I think when it comes to Overwatch, it's not just well, we're going to see this. Period. It could potentially be something a little bit more soakable from the defensive side of things, with things like you mentioned, having an Orisa or having something like a Soldier 76 in the mix. But beyond that, as you mentioned, a lot of the ups and downs, it sounded like you were anticipating seeing Winston Diva coming out, at least for the attacking side.
I'd like to see Winston Diva on both sides. Even though Dive was a monolith forever, it's kind of moved away in favor of these tank-heavy competitions. I'd like to see it make a return. We're at the very least going to see it on defense. Jolfy taking up the Winston, Hot Date on the Diva. We've seen a couple dive looks to them so far. Had varying levels of success, especially on Li Zhang. It wasn't particularly effective, but in a dive versus dive matchup, I think they might have the advantage here. Got to look for Sun. Moving on to the Genji now. We've seen him go for this when they were going for a triple tank dive. If he can find some value, get some Swift Strike going, and get onto Suppose in the backline, that can blow this open for LFT.
Oh, and they find Suppose in the backline almost immediately, but Iron and Vita Coco are not able to stay up on the high ground, although there was a big biotic grenade put down into the backline. Look how far back all of this backline is, but able to soak it up so nicely as Pat the Pro. They get a sleep start and then a biotic grenade to Vita Coco. They'll burn him down, and that'll be enough to sustain the point just narrowly before that first tick was taken. What a D.
You want to talk about backlines? Well, where Dove's taking us, there are no backlines. Immediately on the Tracer, getting into the back, takes out Angelic, keeps Suppose busy at the very least so we can't pump out that healing, and that's going to be a pretty clean hold for Path to Poverty so far. No changes coming out on the offense. They're going to stick with their guns. They started building up to the Diva Bomb. Iron's putting in a lot of work, but there isn't too much value here. Dove is already coming up on the Pulse Bomb as well. A couple extra tools to work with on this defense.
Yeah, I'm keeping my eye on Dove to see if they can find some kind of an instance in the backline for that pulse bomb. Now immediately back, and they're able to find Nishik immediately, and then on top of that, OG is forced to start wall climbing, but that parkour is not going to favor him. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of things, trying to soak up the backline dive of their own was Angelic, and they both get taken down, so now no supports on the table for either team. It's a 3-on-3. Who can deal the most damage first? Hot Date will be D-Max, but Dove able to follow up on Vita Coco, and it looks like with that, it'll just be down to Sun and KC trying to stay alive. OG is going to burst his way in, and the speed of Lucio will reign supreme to get there, and now Bladed is big, although he wants to slash through OG, but he's trying to be elusive. The charge on the end of it, that last dash, will slice through, and once again the defense from Pat the Pro hold before the first tick gets taken.
The good news there for LFT, however, you dragged out the Primal Rage and the Dragon Blade right at the last moment to try and put up that defense. You're going to have a Dragon Blade of your own with the Nano Boost as well. Primal Rage, EMP, there's a lot of tools to work with for LFT here to blow this suddenly wide open. But you need to get onto Suppose and Angelic in the backline, try and negate them before they can invest their own support ultimates.
And if you're Pat the Pro, you have to keep Angelic away from this EMP. You need this sound barrier to be super clutch. Boosted immediately. Jolty into the back line. Pat the Pro looking to get aggressive, and Sun counters with the Nano Blade moving on in, looking for a target, but he only has Hot Date available to him, and that blade only finds one. Sound barrier does go out in the meantime in the back line for Pat the Pro, who wanted to turn this one around, but EMP was held, and Vita Coco is now in the Primal Rage, so trying to get disruption away from these backliners. KC will clean up too, and now forcing their way back to the payload point, as Dove is the only one to contest. Will be forced away. The second tick goes through. Looking for the third. Will they try to defend it? Yes, they will. Hot Date moves through, but there's only 3 members here defensively. If they don't stagger this one out for a little bit longer to get their supports here, this could go terribly wrong, but somehow, some way they do it. They don't get punished for it. KC, what are you doing there? Oh my goodness, almost gets taken down, literally a sliver of HP, and the sound barrier is forced for the offensive LFT as they still are looking for that last 5%. Need to find a way to stay on point, but Big Ol is making that very difficult as he slices through 3, and that will be the defense holding once again, this time before the third check gets ticked away.
I hold shift, you hold shift, because Big Ol holds shift. Three quick shifts, Swift Strikes, burst through the opposition, and turns what could be a really crucial moment for the offense completely flipped on their face. And now Path to Poverty, they've given up 2 ticks, but they've got the Dragon Blade, they've got the Nano Blade.
is moving in to make that work, but he's not singing a song into the support line and not able to find anything on the back end of it, so an opportunity for the offense in overtime, but the overtime meter is ticking away. Iron will be forced forward, able to get boosted. Vita Coco also the Primal Rage to trade away one. Now numbers start to favor the team in red as the EMP does come out for KC, but can they find the fix? Jolfie somehow stays alive. He gets purpled, he gets down low in HP, but he's able to dance in and out of his own personal bubble, and Vita Coco is left trying to make things happen, but him by himself might not be enough. Jolfie needs to stay on this point for a little bit longer. Can he just stagger? Can he get the rest of his team there? Suppose has switched over to the Soldier 76, and Big Ol is now on the Doomfist as they try to dive right back into desperation mode. In effect, they still have some time to play with. Does the defense for Path to Poverty? Vita Coco and Sun, the last two players on point. Now the rest of the team trying to come back and support. It's a 4-on-2 on point. Still favoring LFT, but Angelic comes back in. Dove has a pulse bomb. Can he get here in time and find the target? He gets slapped in the backside by Nishik, and with that clutch sleep dart, that will be enough for the numbers to finally go in the way of LFT as they find checkpoint A.
Finally, someone wins out the team fight. The focus fire actually comes through to take out the opposition, and with some of these stall swaps coming out from Path to Poverty, they've now completely reset their ult economy. It's a great capitalization to stagger out Suppose as well. You're going to be able to push this car almost to the end of the streets phase before any kind of defense can come up. You've got going to come up on the Dragon Blade, the Nano Blade as well, the Primal, the Nano Boost. LFT have everything in the bank right now.
Yeah.
After taking so long to cap the first point, they're suddenly in the driver's seat.
And for me, it comes down to one word: efficiency. Do not overcommit too many ultimates. Just use what you can to keep that ultimate economy in your favor, because this could be a very successful stage for you. Immediately boosted in as a Blade, able to find Supposed and Angelic. The support's being down for side of Path to Poverty will open the steam fight up perfectly, and that'll be enough. They don't need to use anything else. That'll be the payload going back in control of LFT, and it'll start to move as soon as they can take Hot Date away, which they will. Don't even have to worry about her because she was mini diva, and now free push for the second stage here on Nubani.
And again, it's efficiency. Sure, you invested 2 ultimates, but it's the Nano Blade. It's been a combo since the dawn of time. And while it might have been tempting to throw in the Primal Rage to cause chaos, throw in the EMP so there's no mobility to escape, you just use the ultimates you need to. Path to Poverty going to dive in right at the last second to try and stall this out, but now you can invest the EMP.
EMP and self-destruct being used. They trade off Ana for Ana, so trade for trade. Mirrors on the kill feed. Now looking back as Jolfie is using the Primal Rage, starts to slap away Iron, gets pulse bomb that will demech the diva, and looking for a way to continue this push, but LFT is not able to really keep the numbers on point, even though you are seeing Vita Coco trying to slap. He just does not have the support available with that Ana not being there, although Sun is able to come through and find himself another 3 kills, and that'll be enough for the checkpoint to move on in. They did use a lot of ultimates, but again, on the flip side, they're able to farm up a number more, was LFT.
A couple of fights ago, Sun saw Big Hole suddenly clutch out a fight with 3 quick swift strikes and thought, hey, me too, I can do that as well. Suddenly dashes through the opposition, cleans up, and LFT looked a bit rocky, but they did manage to win out Streets phase.
Now coming back with a Blade is Big Ol, able to find his counterpart of Sun, able to find Nishik as well, so the backline is completely decimated, and Dove will capitalize with that. So again, these double dive, double slanks coming out for the side of Path to Poverty have looked very nice when it comes to immediately disrupting that backline, a big strong point for that team in blue.
Absolutely, and now you're just going to play with your food a little bit. Dove just messes with Iron, doesn't quite find the stagger, but leaves the baby diva. The team has to regroup, and you just got to wait for the mech to come back. There we go. Iron, the moment Iron remechs, however, the Nano Monkey jumps in.
Yikes, but again, Jolfie gets boosted and immediately sees what he's going up against and says, guys, I can't make anything happen here, and that's a wasted ultimate. Hot Date will try to find a way to convert with the self-destruct off the payload, but he's not able to find anything from that. And now finally, Jolfie will go in with the big old monkey paws. The Primal Rage will throw a number of those frontliners away, and that will again open up space for Dove to clean up a couple, and now things looking a little bit more desperate for LFT.
The good news for that Nano boost onto Jolfie, however, was that it disrupted the push from LFT, threw off their rhythm a little bit, so they had to try and reset and go again. So nice but nice pulse bomb from some actually to stagger out the Genji. Dove takes a dive, but it's fine. 5v5. Vita Coco falls as well.
but the blade was taken away, and that look at this aggression for Path to Poverty. They're able to move in very easily just to get in the back line, and Nishik will fall. Iron will be taken down. So now just 15 seconds left. KC is gonna have to make some heroics happen with an EMP from the Sombra. Has not been found out yet. Looking for a way to trigger. It's gonna have to be big. It needs to find at least 3, and he's got a couple of targets right there, and it will find a couple, but Angelic is able to dodge away from it. Now finally, Sun moving to the back line will be able to convert into Lucio. So now with numbers, the LFT have to find a way to move this payload as far as possible. I don't know if they needed that primal rage. They use it anyways, and it will gain some space, but again, they are in overtime, and who is gonna hold this payload point once Path to Poverty come back?
Angelic is so caught up with trying to deal with the EMP that he doesn't have any room to peel for the rest of his team to negate the Dragon Blade. There's a lot of ultimates coming on, and what is going to be the final fight here. Dragon Blade comes out from Big Ol, supposed closing the nano boost, but it gets booped away.
The point. Someone's gonna get the point. Nobody for the defense is there. Finally, Angelic is able to come right back through. It's very narrow as it was got the front 2 wheels there. The back 2 couldn't get there, and finally, Hot Date says, I'll take care of the payload. Was able to self-destruct and find 3. Ooh, but it was close. I got a little nervous there, Val's, not gonna lie. My pants are a little bit tighter than they were before we started this one.
LFT's favorite breakfast cereal must be Captain Clutch. At the very last moment for all of these pushes, in overtime, they finally found value. They finally managed to cap out the point. Maybe not for the third, but you went from being spawn camped to getting a huge EMP off, following it with the blade, getting right up to the end of the map. Even though you couldn't finish out, it's still a great overtime push. Constantly with their backs against the wall, they're starting to find these answers. Path to Poverty, the dominant team for 80% of these fights. It's the 20% right with the backs against the wall that LFT are winning out, and that's what got them so far through this map.
Color me surprised. I did not think that payload was going to go nearly as far as it did, but I think you actually hit it pretty much exactly like it was scripted for you, Vals. They were able to win a very early team fight on the streets phase, and that second point of Nubani was essentially not even existent. They had one fight and it was over, and that allowed so much back-end space for that payload to get extra time to move, and they were able to do it pretty nicely, was LFT.
Hey Shift.
Yeah,
Look at what's coming up on the defense here. We talked about pairing up hit scans with these Orisa defense. I was thinking maybe the McCree, maybe even a soldier with his biotic field. Nope. We go it. I hope you bought some wine because we've got all the cheese. It's the Bastion Orisa defense. Combine it with the Sombra, the Brigitte as well to negate any dives. You're really bunkering down here. It's going to be hard to crack open this walnut.
I like that you added in a little bit of walnut in there too, because cheese and nuts and wine all kind of go together. Although we'll take a look at this. Is going to be a nice aged brie cheese or a stinky Lindbergh cheese. We'll take a look as Sun will try to reel this one up. I love that I could hear your deep sigh of Shift stop talking in the back line because I love it. But immediately diving right in to that Bastion and taken down right away as Big Ol's able to get that counter block right in his face. Although Dub does get taken down by a whip. And with that comes a bit of nay-nay, as the rest of point will be secured by everyone in red. Angelic and Suppose were the last 2 left. And I'm sorry that I had to leave another little bit of wordplay with you. It didn't taste well. I'm not gonna lie. I'm disappointed in myself.
It's fine. We forgive you. Sun, after the initial gap on the Bastion, is going to move over to Doomfist now. So again, it's causing so much disruption in the backline. They're particularly trying to look for Suppose here to shut him down. That's the thing about these Bastion defenses though. You invest so many resources from the dive to shut down the Bastion that after he falls, you don't have any cooldowns left to deal with the rest of the team, and you just get mopped up.
And Sun will immediately change the Doomfist in response to that Bastion not being all that successful. Immediately, it will be Jolfie in the backline. He has to keep himself inside of his bubble though, because he is biotic grenaded. And meanwhile, on the point, Hot Date is trying to do what he can, but KC says, not today, as an EMP comes down, and Sun says, thank you very much, sir. May I have some more? As he's able to clean up a couple. Sun will fall low, but will survive as they find the last bit of support. So again, valuable stall, but again, 1 tick already on the board, almost a second. This defense is flexing, not quite breaking, but it is flexing pretty considerably.
On the defense, you only need to invest the EMP there from KC. You're going to have both your Subult ultimates and a self-destruct here coming up with the Supercharger too, so there's still a lot of tools to put up with the defense. For the offense, however, it's going to be the classic. It's going to be a Nano Blade. Dove's moved over to a Sombra of his own to try and take some of these health back control away from KC, try and build up an EMP of his own to flush out the Orisa. But it's going all on the Nano Blade here.
Oh, but he gets stunned and the boost doesn't come out. Suppose falls. Talk about your good old-fashioned backfires. Now OG going in with our Genji. He gets shield broken and not able to find any damage whatsoever. Oh no, what a play though from OG to get that shield bash off.
Great restraint, however, from Suppose. Actually holds onto the 9 boost here. You can move into the next fighter, maybe throw it onto Jolfi. Okay, no, he's moving on to the Reinhardt. It's gonna be triple support. Dove staying on the Sombra gives me a little bit of sanity left that we aren't seeing triple tank in combination as well. But Suppose has a wealth of targets now for this nano boost.
Immediately back at the point, Supercharger used in response for Vita Coco and LFT. Looking for a way to break down Jolfi's shield. They're putting a lot of pressure on it, but Jolfi says, I'll just go immediately underneath you, force you to come down to me, and then we'll be boosted. Wants the charge, but gets slept dart before he can finally get those big wagon wheels moving. The meteor strike in the back line won't be able to find much, and Sun says, get me out of here. LFT, though, continue to say, we need to stay here. We can't leave yet. Self-destruct right behind the Orisa shield. We'll take down Nishik, and with that comes a couple other staggered picks. And Path to Poverty are able to find themselves a nice team fight, considering, again, they had those late swaps.
And it was actually sort of a misplay by Vita to invest the supercharger so early, because the damage boost stretches across the point to KC set up onto high ground behind the offense, and that's just a big indicator of, hey, this is where Sombra is hiding, come kill her. But yeah. That comes through, the dive comes through to follow up as well, and even though the Sombra doesn't fall immediately, it completely unravels all the defensive plans. Path to Poverty went out to fight, and now they can now start to get aggressive on this offense.
And with this comes a lot of space gain for Path to Poverty. Looking for this payload, although it is moving slowly again. Suppose is the only one driving that truck right now, but the fight is happening right up front. KC will not be able to get a DNP off, at least will not try to use it, at least as of yet. Dove will be the first one to hit, but with all of these rallies being used, the back line of it, all of the armor coming out will pretty much pan out nicely for this to be pretty much a moot point for the engagement. Although, as I say that, KC says, not yet, we're not done, hits the EMP, and then everybody else comes on forward. A very nice delayed engage there for the side of LFT.
KC maybe wants to take that EMP back. I'm not entirely sure it was necessary. Sure, it lets you clearly win the fight, and it's going to force Dove to move off to Desire now instead of his own Sombra pick. I think maybe you could have held that for the next fight and use it to break apart the Ghost initially. It's a nice early self-struck, doesn't really find anything, but it zones away the triple tank.
Oh, but now Jolf is boosted. He's going to find a lot of damage as Vita Coco was the only one to die for. The meteor strike coming back very late. Hello? Question mark? Sun gets immediately punished, and that's going to be enough for now Path to Poverty to have the numbers and look to engage aggressively. But beyond that, what I'm looking at here, Valls, is how much free ultimate charge they're going to get off that delayed engagement. Dove is now up to 36% and nearly full charge. Jolfi's got the Earth Shatter. This front line is going to be very difficult to deal with for this next push.
And you know what would have been really good to capitalize on that self-structure if you're in? An EMP.
Oh. Well,
bygones,
yeah,
bygones, Path to Poverty in the driver's seat now. They're going to have the Earth Shatter and the self-destruct to work with here.
Self-destruct to be used first and foremost. Earth Shatter comes out afterwards. Not able to find a whole lot as it was Vita Coco in the Primal Rage, but he's already very low and will be taken down. So again, a couple ultimates exchanged for what will essentially be the result that we expected, which is this point finally hitting the checkpoint, and we will finish off the streets phase and try to finish this one in the heart of Numbani.
You know, it's interesting for me to spectate NA Overwatch because it kind of gives me a look into NA culture. Like, in most of the world, the dove is recognized as a sign of peace, but for Path to Poverty here, it only means a warpath. Absolutely huge Zaya plays there. Builds up so much charge, racks up the Graviton so quickly, just shreds through to follow up on the Earth Shatter. He's playing really well to follow up on some of Jolfi's aggression. I like how Dove is playing this Zaya.
And I gotta just fade back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the cast. You know, these damage players having to flex onto Zarya and make it effective. Dove says, I can do that, no problem, as they are able to Graviton Surge Vita Coco, but he was able to self-sustain himself through that thanks to OG switching to the Mercy. And now, with that Pharmacy combo, that's gonna make our Analyst desk smirk a little bit. Sun will be able to find a lot of damage. The EMP in the backline. Can they find enough damage to convert and make this worth it, though? They take down one. Now, with Jolfi falling, there is no shield in the way, and that will mean Vita Coco can dive in a little bit more safely. They won't find any more picks, but again, the damage has been dealt.
And this is just how survivable Vita Coco on the Wrecking Ball is. He goes in for the initial pile driver, gets immediately solo grabbed, and despite all the resources from Path to Poverty coming in to try and shut him down, combined with the Biotic Nade, his own shield, he doesn't even drop below half health. Backs out again, comes in for another pile drive to follow with a self-destruct, completely split across the 3-3, and they didn't find an answer.
boosting up to start to push off his path to pro. Will be on the Jolfi, and they find themselves 2 kills, and now with the Earth Shatter coming down, they will secure hopefully a 3rd, but Iron gets boosted in response, and will find himself some good health in the backline, and Sun will get himself a barrage, which finds 2 after he was able to take down Hot Date. So now even numbers on the point, but those numbers look more menacing as they wear blue, considering that it's Dove as the Zarya and Diggle on the Brigida facing up against the Sombra. A Graviton Surge is used, and it finds 2! Can they take down the Mercy? The Valkyrie was popped, and he was able to find his way out. Oh, it was clutch to get him to survive that, but not able to survive the self-destruct with Sun. Immediately rezzed up his KC. So can they get this EMP back online? They need it. It's right here with 10 seconds left. Jolfi does not have an Earth Shatter, and LFT are looking like the position of power. Jolfi is low. They find him. LFT may have just defended long enough. They have to take care of Dump and Hot Date, though. The minefield will be used on the payload. Hot Date will get boosted, and 9-0, pardon me, Biotic grenaded on the back end of it. He'll stay alive and keep us in contest, but they need the numbers to come back. Finally, Big Ol switching to the Doomfist will get there. The sound barrier is used. They need to find this Mercy, though. OG is being so slippery, and Jolfi tries to find it. The self-destruct only finds 1, and then tries and will be resurrected. OG, talk about your good old-fashioned clutch Mercy plays. Pops the Valkyrie, and LFT will sustain the defense and win out on Numbani. Holy cow.
We don't often give enough love to main support players, but you can't help but shout out OG Dare. Not only in that final fight, but in the entire build-up as well. So sneaky, immediately resurrects Sun's Farah so he can come in with the 3k on the barrage, and as soon as KC falls, sneaks off to the side, gets that resurrection as well, so you have the EMP to start turning the fight around. Just played so slippery, stayed out of harm's way. It's much easier said than done with a Mercy. Even though Mercy isn't the must pick she used to be for a lot of the year so far, Resurrection and Valkyrie are still 2 of the most powerful abilities in the entire game. You need to keep tabs on what the Mercy is. You need to keep tabs on if she has those abilities online. You can't afford players like OG to get away with those kind of actions because they do determine the course of fights. They turn a 6v6 drawn out engagement into what, a 7v6, even an 8v6 you can get 2 resurrections off.
Yeah, that goodness. And that Graviton Surge from Dove looked to be the nail in the coffin, but they were just not able to get that last bit of damage. OG slips right through the fingers of Path to Poverty, and that will put us in this best of 5 to a score of 2-1. There will be no sweep here in the winners final. Nepal is where we go next, and I know how excited you are to see more 3-3 comps files.
I'm hoping we move to Sanctum first because then we maybe see Orisa-based offenses and defense, maybe pull out some snipers to control the sightlines as well. Maybe even moving on to the Shrine as well. There's opportunity to pull out the Farahs that have been so effective so far. Village, maybe it's more lenient towards these triple tank, triple support compositions, but there's still room to maybe pull out a bit of cheese with the Mei and the Reaper picks as well. Nepal isn't so bad for triple tank and triple support. There's still variety to be found on all 3 maps. I am quite excited to see what teams can actually come up with.
My biggest thing so far, though, I mean, again, you kind of memeingly bring up the cheese, but to be honest, whenever LFT try to pull something out of the bag of tricks, it seems to not ever go so well. You think back to Horizon, they try to pull that little crouch conga line defense all the way through, and they get completely blindsided because everyone else went the other way. They try to pull it to Bastion, doesn't work so well, and up until recently, the Pharmacy has looked okay, but they do find themselves a little bit of swing of momentum, having that Pharmacy work out on both fronts, from the Farah side and the Mercy side, going so well. Maybe a possibility for Nepal to swing in favor of seeing that come out again.
Yeah, that said, even though momentum is on the side of LFT, you have to remember the last 2 maps we've been to have been LFT's choices.
True.
Think how dominant Path to Poverty have been on LFT's map choices. If we're now moving on to Nepal, a map that Path to Poverty have selected, I feel like they're still going to be the alpha team here. They're still going to have the advantage despite the momentum swing in favor of LFT.
Well, it's I hate to try to call it because let's be honest, there's just no way to actually call this game. It is a very close game. It's come down to just a couple of instances here or there, a couple of missed opportunities or a little bit of mispositioning. It's always exciting to see, you know, as we kind of finish out the calendar year with Overwatch and now with season 12 kind of coming to a wrap in the next couple of days in the competitive side of things, that this kind of is the nice, we're like starting to form the bow, on the year of Overwatch. And this has been a real treat. I think Christmas come early, or Hanukkah, I guess, if you're into that, with this matchup we've seen so far. And this is just the winners final. These three teams will still get a chance to play more throughout the day.
Oh yeah, that's the key part here. These teams aren't fighting to stay in the tournament. They're just fighting to punch the ticket to grand final immediately. Whoever loses is still going to have the opportunity to move on to the losers final next, play against Team Livid, who I spectated last week and casted. They have a really strong roster as well. They've made it this far in the tournament for a reason. There's still an opportunity, even if you lose out this map, you can still make it to the grand finals. But both these teams are fighting tooth and nail to not have to go through the losers final. You want to punch your ticket now.
Well, all paths to that have to go through Nepal for both teams, not just Path to Poverty, but LFT if they want to make the reverse comeback. Thing?
The well-known historic saying, all roads lead to Nepal.
Is that a historic saying?
I believe it was Caesar who said that, you know?
Oh. I guess I missed that history lesson. The opinion way, more like the Napoleon way. How about that? Do you like that reference?
You know what I like? I like Farah, I like Wrecking Ball. I want a big game from Sun and Vita Coco here to take Nepal, move this series to 2-2, maybe set yourself up for the reverse sweep.
Well, Vals, I love that you never let me get off topic. And moving things going into it, it will be that pharmacy, as you mentioned, for LFT, as they do fight in the high ground. The concussion blast will actually open up some space, and way up in the air goes Angelic. What? How did he get that high? Oh my goodness. Someone get like the high air on that one, because my goodness, he went absolutely soaring. And meanwhile, LFT with a likely smile on their face as well. They clean up this first point, but goodness, Angelic popped off quite literally.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what happened here. Maybe you comboed a pile driver with the uppercut from the Doomfist, throw in a concussion black as well. Just whatever tools you have to send the poor DJ flying. It's a new kind of high that you don't often see in nightclubs.
What a moment. What a moment. Now Sun and OG, they'll be the ones holding the friendly, or maybe not so friendly skies as the barrage comes out, but it will be Defense Matrix and Bubbled and immediately punished, as Suppose able to hit a couple of those orbs of destruction into the face of Sun. But meanwhile, KC has swapped on over and was able to find himself a Doomfist double kill, and that'll be enough to continue to keep this in favor of LFT. They're up to 35% and counting nicely.
I think Sun might be listening to the cast, heard how infatuated you were with how high Angelic got, and decided to take his barrage from an equally high distance. It's way too far out to actually get any value, just gets completely eaten up by Defense Matrix. Good work from LFT to still capitalize on the back of it. I do like some of these swaps we're seeing from Path to Poverty now. Move over to the dive composition, enable Dove on the McCree to take some pot shots into the sky and try and shut down dive. You've got the flashbang to take out KC on the Doomfist as well. This is what you need.
Yeah, pile driver immediately right on top, and goodness gracious, it was comboed with the self-destruct, and it finds all of the supports. What a play from Vita Coco, coming in with the monster slam. Goodness gracious, that was clean.
It's the pile driver from Vita Coco, it's the seismic slam from KC. So much crowd control, there is no opportunity for Path to Poverty to have any chance of escaping. And again, Licking Team managed to secure a clean team fight, only investing one ultimate. They're already halfway to the barrage again, they can invest in Minefield now.
And Transcendence
Path to Poverty
has to be used earlier than I think Path to Poverty wanted to use it. Dove able to take down Iron, but now it's KC on the point. He gets taken down immediately. Vita Coco are trying to be the savior, and immediately OG will find the res on the KC. They'll all back away from the self-destruct and then immediately come back in. This will be a clean 100-0 boosted Mercy at the end, because why not? Path to Poverty left licking their wounds after Village.
Sometimes you've just got to flex. Sometimes you've got to go for the Nano Mercy for the cleanup. And with a performance like that, you almost deserve to be able to pull that off. Looking for team, absolutely dominant. I don't know where this roster has come from. This isn't the LFT we saw for the first two matches of this game. But this is an LFT I'm enjoying watching. Path to Poverty suddenly have a huge challenge on their hands, and you need some more adjustment to try and deal with it.
Well, we'll go to Sanctum next. I don't know about you. I know what you're excited for when you're looking at this. I'm ready to see some Lucio boops. I'm ready to see it. I need to see these sound waves come through to complete this match. It needs to happen.
You've got the Lucio boops on one side. On the other, you've got the concussive blast. You've got Arissa's halt. Someone's going to be taking a dive in that pit. Even throwing
Well-
the shield bash from Brigitte as well.
Do we start a pool of who goes swimming first? Who you got your money on?
Dove doesn't have much maneuverability, but he's going to be good
That's
for
who
the
I was
team.
going to say.
I'm going to maybe say Nishik on Diana, not as mobile. It doesn't matter too much. It's a nice rotation from the offense of Path to Poverty, moving right into the back, trying to punish the lack of mobility on Vita Coco's Orisa. But it doesn't matter. It takes so much time that Vita Coco can set up to the other side. They've effectively just swapped sides. The Halt almost gets value, but nice work from the mobility of the tank. Save their cooldowns to be able to adjust.
Yes, but it does burn the cooldowns, and look how spread apart they are. But Jolt be able to get the D-back on Iron, so essentially we're with a 6-on-5, now actually a 6-on-5, as Sun gets taken down. Vita Coco able to halt in, big all to the lower dark blue abyss. I don't know where that goes. Dove will go find out for us as well, as Vita Coco will take him there. Angelic will take down the culprit of Vita Coco. KC lunging back on forward, but the point will likely go in favor of the team wearing red, and LFT will find themselves that continued momentum.
Did anyone say Big Ol for the first one to take a dive? It was Big Ol, fell victim to a nice halt from Vita Coco. KC pops off on the Hanzo. He's got such great accuracy that he's been able to showcase whenever he pulls out the bow and arrow. He's already built up the Dragon Strike, maybe able to combo it with a nice halt here to catch the opposition off guard, but I think he's going to be using more of his zoning ability.
Well, we'll take a look to see how that goes. Sun will be the first one to poke and prod. Again, with that pharmacy combo, it's been doing very well. Now the Dragon Strike right down Main Street. But already, everyone from Path to Poverty is pretty much on the play, and Suppose will come and recontest with the Transcendence. Now, finally, coming back forward. What else can they find for damage? Dove has been taken down, so with that comes a 6-on-5. They will trade away a couple, but without Vita Coco being there, OG will try to get off a res, but gets booped away from it, so not able to find the full resurrection. The numbers and the points still staying in control of that team wearing red. Jolty will try to change that, but his Primal Rage is not going to be enough. He will likely get focused down next, but able to stagger for a while, but will that be a successful stagger? That tends to be the question, and the response seems to be coming up as a resounding no.
But Dove, out of nowhere, finds a sudden 2K shutting down KC and OG, and now there's a sudden path for Poverty to make a path back into the road.
Oh no!
Pop the Deadeye finds Vita Coco!
He held on to that thing from what was high noon all the way up until about 1:30, and he was able to outlast the shield of Orisa. Now finally, Path to Poverty with the sound barrier coming in. They dodge and weave around the twin dragons that come out and look to clean up the point, and it looks like it likely will come down to who can sustain the numbers. Vita Coco gets pushed off by Angelic, and Path to Poverty on the backhand of Dove. Ooh, they were able to finally recontest. 86% for LFT though.
And LFT just dumps so many ultimates into an initial fight that it gives Path to Poverty an inroad to come back. Off the back of a Deadeye, Dove is already halfway to his next one, by the way. Hot 8's got himself struck up. They've got a couple tools to work with. If only really the Nano Boost online for LFT.
Oh.
But it's a great 2K from...
KC, goodness gracious, gets the way. We like it. I gotta keep the Sunshine Band references going. LFT able to come back in on the backhand of, again, 2 solid headshots from KC. They'll retake and look to put this one away.
Well, I'm glad the Sunshine Band still has at least one fan. There's going to be a couple changes now from Path to Poverty, trying to find some kind of value. Dove moves over to the Soldier, a little bit more survivability, little with the extra healing and the sprint ability as well to touch point. Jolty on the Wrecking Ball manages to get on the point, but taken really low. KC pops off, takes out Big Ol. The damage comes from 2, doesn't find anyone, but KC finds another.
Someone put a leash on this Hanzo. He is running rampant, finding himself double kill after double kill, and that will be enough to clean up the rest of the point. The Battle Mercy getting involved with the last cleanup. Nepal convincingly goes the way of LFT. We are going to go game 5.
Everyone grab your booms, we've got a reverse sweep coming in. Maybe. It doesn't matter. LFT are looking like a team changed. Coming back from 2-0 down, Path to Poverty looking dominant. They've managed to take a close Numbani round, and now a dominant Li Zhang as well, especially off the back of some of Sun's players on this Farah. LFT are suddenly in the driver's seat.
I would say more than in the driver's seat. They are the title holders and the card dealers right now when it comes down to that motorized reference that you're making in goodness. This has been one heck of a turnaround. I mean, let's be honest. LFT looked like they were pretty much down and out after the first 2 maps. They come back after halftime. They take a very narrow win on Numbani, and then they stop Nepal This comes down to effectively a best of one in the winners finals. Come on, give me a break, Miles. This is looking hot.
Yeah, and Dorado in particular, it's a great map from Pharmacy. And what's been working so far for LFT?
Yep.
Sun on the Farah, OG on the Mercy, able to play so smart and stay out of harm's way. LFT might seriously pull off the reverse sweep here. Either way, it'll be interesting to see what teams pull out. On Dorado, you kind of have 3 different flavors moving through the map. You can run the Orisa-based defense on first point, if not the Reinhardt. You move on to a dive to manipulate the high ground round second, and then on third, you move back to the Reinhardt, the tank-heavy compositions. It'll be interesting to see if teams actually decide to switch it up, or if stick with one thing and just roll through it all the way through. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right, and that's what I was going to say. Is so far, this has not been an offense kind of held together with duct tape. They make a full-on rental exchange for the pharmacy combo, and LFT has been riding that pony all the way around the corral and taking that one out to show. Because goodness, they have looked nearly unstoppable. And again, Dove tries to make the switch to McCree, but his DPS is just not enough to take down the combo. If this pharmacy does come out, does he need help? And if so, who do you want to see come out for the side of Path to Poverty?
I think the crucial part about the way Sun's playing Farah is he's focusing the supports for Path to Poverty, able to put so much pressure onto the Zenyatta and the Lucio that the rest of the team has to peel back and support them. It means that Dove isn't given the resources he needs to effectively shut down Sun. So if you can maybe tighten up the play a little bit, deny some of the sightlines to Sun, and that will allow Dove to actually find value. Keep the dust scored up there as well, just to zone Sun away even more. But the way it's going so far, you're right. They just can't put the right value of. They can't put enough pressure onto Sun at the moment.
They need to find a way to put more pressure on the Sun, though. That's what it comes down to. I think if we do see the Farah come out once again, he's just been really, effectively using the champion in the way that it really does make the hero shine. And it's just been absolutely insane to see how effective the Farah has been. And do you look at the change recently to faster rate of fire being the cause for it? Or is it just a simple fact that there's no counters on the board? For me, it's kind of a teeter-totter. You can make an argument for one or the other. Regardless, the results are kind of speaking for themselves.
I think it has absolutely to do with a Farah change. Just able to bump out so much more damage with a faster rate of fire, especially when you're able to land as many directs as Sun can onto these squishy targets in the back line. And even if you invest the resources into taking out Sun at the moment, Casey is popping off on the Hanzo as well. It's a dual threat. You have to commit to taking out one or the other. If you show any kind of indecision, you're going to enable one of them to just take over the team fight. If anything, actually, I don't think you should invest. I'm going to change my mind. I don't think you should be investing resources into taking out Sun. Just leave him be. Throw your diva up there occasionally to deny his spam damage. Instead, just focus on winning the ground battle, running over maybe the Orisa-based compositions if they come out, shutting down Casey on the Hanzo, sorry, and then Sun will fall because he won't have anything else to do except float and wait for his inevitable death.
Well, that's all good in theory, but can they take down the front line? Vita Coco had made a very substantial case for himself matching up against the frontliners that were being dominated by Jolfi and Hot Date. And again, you got to give shout-outs to Nishik and OG. Nishik on this Zenyatta, actually, let's just be candid. We haven't yet to talk about it. He made this Zenyatta really shine. And again, not exactly the most favorable map for Zenyatta when it comes to offense, but the fact of the matter is, he and OG both have really stepped up lately to keep that front line alive.
Yeah, absolutely. They identified that a lot of the resources were being dumped into Jolfi, and instead of trying to take that battle, shut down Jolfi to get onto the back line, you start focusing Suppose, you start focusing Angelic, take out Big Ol as well. Force the resources to be taken away from Suppose to keep the rest of your team alive, and that stops him being able to pop up as effectively as they can. Great start from Sun, actually, takes out Suppose.
Big pick, and now Dove, who is up on top of that yellow building, looks for a way to the backline. Will find it, but KC will turn around and find a way to pick. They do have the D.Va sleeping, and that will open up opportunity to take down not only the other support, but also Big Ol, and with that come up cleanup kills, and LFT are riding this train all the way through this finish as they continue to keep that momentum. They're going to find a lot of free push.
And you need to be so much more careful with your positioning, especially on these squishy support heroes when you know Sun is as accurate with these directs. Dove tries to get a bit cheeky, working so well on the Tracer early on in the series, gets punished by KC, and that's going to buy so much time for LFT to start pushing in here.
70% to Dragons. that is all that needs to be said, I think. And looking for a way to continue to find that damage, as they will Sonic Arrow to the left and focus their damage over the middle, but immediately onto point go Jolty and Hot Date. Big Ol also there to support this mini dive, but ooh, Dove. Ooh, he's able to all for free. He finds a headshot on the Sun. He switched over to the Widowmaker and has got himself on top of that little platform in between the checkpoint and the fountain, and will now dive on in as they do have number 6 on 5. The Dragons will try to push people back, and it looks like they want to re-engage. Vita Coco will get boosted and immediately go to the back line. Wants to find Dove. Will chase him all the way to Timbuktu, and will finally get the kill. But meanwhile, Big Ol is able to get a boosted blade into the back line as well, and will take down KC. How about OG? How about you make this a buffet? Not able to find the third course of the meal, but will back out. He will actually get taken down Iron Chase nicely, but meanwhile, the payload in contest, as Vita Coco says, we want this in our favor. LFT now pushing forward to try to support the monkey. Will get biotic grenaded and will back up very wisely, but the space has been gained. The barrage comes out and finds Hot Date, but Dove again able to grapple up, come on in, but Sun gets rezzed. You need to find that shot if you're Dove. And now with the Sun being right back out, even though it's nighttime, it's looking like daytime, as Sun is able to find some more damage to allow KC, who switches to the Widow, to find the counter pick, and with that comes the cleanup and likely the payload push.
And these are the counter picks I wanted to start seeing come out. Hot Date trying to stagger out, get shut down. We saw Dove roll out initially on the Tracer, Casey on the Hanzo. As soon as Sun starts causing issues, Dove moves over to Widowmaker to deal with the Farah. That causes KC to move over the Widowmaker, make it a sniper duel. And now Sun hops onto Tracer for a second, is on the Genji. So it's mirror compositions across the board now. Not liking how the Farah fares up on this second point, was especially wide open towards the end. Wants to abuse the high ground with Genji instead, start ramping up towards the Blade. Speaking of Blades, however, Big Ol's already got another one.
Will they find a way to convert off the Infrasight being used from Dub? Jolty will also go into Primal Rage, try to push people around, but soaked up nicely so far for LFT, and they will respond with a counterattack. The self-destruct comes out, but it doesn't quite find the angle that I think he wanted. Regardless, they will boost Vita Coco, and LFT look to commit, but Big Ol says not so fast, as he gets himself that 3-course meal that he wanted before. He finds both supports plus Sun and says time for lights out, as he gets the triple kill, and the cleanup will finish. Finally, Path to Poverty get themselves a substantial defense.
And this is one of the keys to victory for Path to Poverty. Enable Big Ol to have these big plays. Get a cheeky deflect onto the Sleep Dart, come up huge with the Nano Blade, complete turns out the team fight. You did invest you did have to invest both ultimates, the Primal as well, but with the changes coming out both sides, the ultimate economy's been a bit reset. It's going to be a little bit of a breather. Maybe Sun's going to invest the Blade, but I think he's going to wait for the Nano Boost to come up.
Self-destruct will be used first and foremost for the defenders. Path to Poverty looking to start things off in their favor, but won't catch any lottery tickets there. They wanted the Mega Millions, but they came up with Mega Milla nothings. I didn't know where to go with that one. Just let that reference lie where it is. I know, don't shake your head at me, Viles. I see you. Now coming back forward, looking for a way to move in. But again, the self-destruct gained enough space for this defense to, again, get themselves on the high ground, look for a backline dive, and now boosted in goes Jolty, as he wants to do just that. And will actually separate all of the key members. Sun and Iron are trying to keep themselves alive. The self-destruct will be thrown down on the ground, but again, not much found out of that ambitious ultimate. Nothing gained, nothing lost as of yet, besides time on the clock, as now finally LFT want to re-engage right in front of the payload. They will find one pick, but they will get biotic grenaded, and that'll be enough for Dove to dive in, find a pulse bomb, and find the kill. Still in the backline, looking for OG, will use the recall, and the sound barrier will just narrowly catch Dove, who needed the health pool boost, and that'll be enough, it looks like, to keep this backline disengaged. Sun will boost the Blade and find Angelic, but there just aren't any more targets really available, although he does track down Suppose, and that'll be enough to get LFT this payload moving forward.
Yeah, finally get the payload moving forward. It's effectively what we saw from Big Ol. It's a nice Nano Blade, throwing a little reflective Sleep Dart in there for extra value. It's just a cherry on top. There's a couple ultimates coming in line on the defense again, though. They're going to have the Nano Boost. Suppose is farming up these Nano Boosts. He says more of them than I've had hot dinners.
Boosted, though, is the Blade from Big Ol, looking for a way to make his Blade shine, and will take down OG with KC as well. So again, both supports taken away. Nishik will survive to tell the tale, but it's not one worth repeating, as he will fall back towards base, Although it looks like you're not able to get completely out, as once again, Big Ol will stagger him away, and he will take a dive down the cliffside. That beach, not so pretty at night, though, and now with only 25 seconds left, we're looking at the last full attack for LFT.
I feel like I've been taken 18 months in the past. There's no tank-heavy compositions. There's none of that. It's just Nanoblade after Nanoblade after Nanoblade winning out these fights. Big Ol and Sun both coming up huge. Sun's actually going to make a change moving over to the Doomfist now. He's kind of tired of the game. A nice self-destruct with the capitalization from Jolty. They've shut down old OG. It's a good start.
No OG means no sound barrier, and if they renew that, you're going to use that to their advantage. Will Path to Poverty. Jolty, Primal Rage in the back line, wants to find a way to push around these supports, but they can fire a grenade, and Jolty will be taken down on the back end of it, looking for a way to recontest his LFT, but again, they still have a number of players to go through, but fortunately, they're able to get OG back at the exact right time to help with these amplifiers, and that'll be enough for them to get the speed they need, the healing they need, and the kills they need to finally push this payload in. Pardon me, not quite yet, because Jolty has come back on the wrecking ball, and this Hammond is being annoying, but it's only a small nuisance. Overtime will not fade away. They will hit checkpoint B.
Yeah, and you only need to invest the sound barrier into that as well. You've still got both tank ultimates and your nano boost online. It's going to be wholesale swaps from Path to Poverty. Dove moving off to Tracer onto the Sombra. Despite having some great showings early in the series, he hasn't been too effective on Tracer today, so I do like this swap.
But immediately back, you want to see more of it. Here it comes for you, Vals. Big Ol onto the nano boosted blade, and will be taken down immediately though by Vita Coco, who was able to find some sustained damage from his support in the backline, and that'll be enough for them to turn this one completely around as LFT find the numbers and the kills. That was a big fight. Now with 45 seconds left, they have to still go a little bit further, but they will have a lot of ultimates to finally push this one potentially all the way through.
And the most impressive part of that shutting down the Nanoblade wasn't just on the back of a biotic grenade or a sleep dart. Neither of those come through. It was just plain old damage output, shut down, cut through the nano boost.
Self-destruct being used, and Nishik isn't able to avoid it, so without Ana being there, that means no boost for LFT. Primal Rage will just be one raw monkey looking for some raw damage. The Meteor Strike comes down, Big Ol will immediately shield back, and Sun will have to fade back. Still 10 seconds left. Hot Date D-Mech, so essentially we'll have ourselves a 6-on-5. Do they have an EMP? Not yet. Dove looking for a way to possibly farm that up and be clutch with it. The self-destruct comes out, but a very nice mid-air bubble put right around the D.Va self-destruct sequence, and that will allow LFT to move right on in. As they do take down Dove, the EMP finds very little value, and with that comes numbers. Boosted though. Hot Date wanting to find a way to keep this one in contest as long as possible, but desperately needs to stay alive. Angelic trying to make that dream a reality as the Lucio is dancing on the payload for as long as possible, but finally D-Mac this Hot Date. There are no ultimates for anybody. Big Ol very close to getting a rally, but he needs to find a way to contest this one. Finally, it comes out. The nano grenade comes through and finds some purple. The Meteor Strike used by Sun wants to find a juicy target. Where will it land? Still holding it. Wants to come down and finds Hot Date, and that might be enough for the numbers for LFT, but they lose Vita Coco in the process, so 5-on-5 action ensuing. The sound barrier might just be that helpful they need from OG. The self-destruct from Iron won't find any kills, but they take down the Ana in the meantime. Angelic with the last second sound barrier. There's just numbers funneling in from the defensive spawn. No desperate swap being used yet as so many ultimates are so close. Where is the target prioritization? It's like they're just throwing rocks in a pond and hoping one makes a splash. Finally, Suppose we'll switch to the Doomfist. Overtime is still here. The voices are moving and going, but goodness, Suppose, he's been playing support all day and says, hold the phone. I can convert some kills. And the Doomfist plays are mammoth. And they will finally clean this one up. Will Path to Poverty Vals take it away?
You know, I suppose Doomfist is a pretty good stall pick.
Goodness gracious.
It looked so promising for LFT. They had that in the bag. The self-destruct came out, zoned everyone away. You were a meter away from capping, but the stall just kept coming and coming and coming. There wasn't the target focus. There wasn't the cleanup. The Doomfist comes out, like you said, the support switch onto the DPS. That's when you know it's desperate times. That's when you know you need to end the fight now. comes up huge, and Jolfi and Hot Date are able to finally capitalize and turn that around. LFT, you can still kind of hold your heads high that you managed to push it so far. Dorado third point is one of the hardest points in the game to capitalize
Absolutely.
and finish out. But you were so close and so far. That's gotta hurt.
It's a game of inches. That's what I say. Game of inches. And that, the couple of, well, I guess they're in-game meters, not inches. We'll go to your system of measurement for this one, Vols.
I mean, exactly. Sometimes your Hail Mary gets caught, but it's just stopped a yard short. You can't quite make it there.
Looking like our Bears versus the Patriots. Too soon for us? I think that's too soon.
This defense coming out. It's a double sniper look. We don't see this too often on Dorado, actually, but it makes sense. Capitalizing on some of the sightlines, especially around the well, around the parade area. You have a Widow set up in the back. Hanzo can alternate between sitting in the back corner on his own or getting aggressive, using the Stormbow and his leap ability to shut down tanks and shields. Interesting look, actually. Rather than holding round to the side, they're going to be... This is a really aggressive high ground hold from Vita Coco, staring right down into spawn. Normally, you don't see teams do this too often because you're going to effectively just fire on it from spawn, but it's a good early scout.
Yeah, I think they were trying to feed the hot hand of KC as well, who not only popped up in the Hanzo and Nepal, but also had a couple of clutch headshots onto his counterpart window, as well as a couple of supports when he switched over to the Widow on this first point in the last time on offense, and won't find much success there, Vol. So they'll hold right in front of the fountain, which is a little bit more traditional for Narissa, but gotta be careful because Big Ol is looking to climb the wall, but oh my goodness, there's a Venom Mine right there. No, actually that will scout out Big Ol. We'll look to get to the back line. He's got OG right in front of him, but he's taking a lot of damage and will have to fade away. Now Vita Coco, what can he find? KC turns around with the quick scope to finish off Big Ol. They want to take him down, do Path to Poverty, and Jolty will commit so much to find what is essentially so little. They take down KC, but everybody else on his team has already fallen away. Although, as I say that, a nice biotic grenade was placed onto the forehead of Vita Coco and double convert, but it's all marginal at this point as the defense for LFT wills to get the first hold.
Yeah, it was actually really interesting position early on in that fight from the double sniper look of LFT, playing quite aggressive, holding right behind the Vita Coco shield. And although that does kind of open up the vulnerability to dive, at just the right moment, the leap and the grappling hook come in, get them out of danger, and it forces even more commitment and resources from the offense to try and capitalize on.
Sun will start things off with the Dragon Blade, or pardon me, not Dragon Blade, a Dragon Strike. Not playing this time on the Genji, will not find much, although Dove will actually convert onto OG. That's a very monumental pick. There'll be no res on the table. No Valkyrie a chance to farm up KC, though will take down Suppose, who was able to fortunately get his boost off just beforehand, which will result in enough damage to take down Vita Coco. KC's trying to do what he can to hold this one down, but there's just too many big bodies. Not enough one taps there. We will contest the point for a little bit longer, but it will be marginal seconds off the clock. The first point goes the way of PTP.
And it's a great adjustment from Path to Poverty. The double sniper composition, the one weakness is that you can't put as much pressure onto the Reinhardt and onto the Zarya when they're trying to funnel all these resources into the tanks. And that's exactly Path to Poverty's main strength. They immediately make the swap over to triple tank, triple support. They've already farmed up these huge ultimates, the Rally, the self-destruct. Coming up on the sound barrier, got the Earth Shadow 2. Dove makes a swap off the Zarya onto the Sombra already to scout out, try and contest the high ground. They've got a lot of tools here.
Well, it comes down for me if can Dove find a hack onto either the Pharah or the Mercy. How about the Mercy, he says. Now in front of OG's face, OG will switch to the guns and try to take down Dove, but Hot Date, meanwhile, has found a big self-destruct to take down both Nishik and Sun. No support, no damage. Jolfi finds free reign, and wow, Path to Poverty are making this look easy.
You know, I'm sure you know more than anyone, sometimes your Hot Date just doesn't score. That's not the case here. Comes up huge with a 2k self-destruct. I can see you wincing.
Hold me, I'm dead.
Is really effective on the Sombra, actually, putting in some long-range damage, forced away to Vita Coco, and now tries to punish Shine as well, gets forced away, but now both Sword ultimates have to come out for their LFT.
First shutter used from Jolfi, but not able to find really all that much. KC stays alive through it. Nishik has a nice line of sight on the high ground to keep his frontliners healthy. Vita Coco goes round and round. Self-destruct goes up, comes down, and Jolfi fades away, and now Vita Coco will minefield the payload. A lot of time taken away. Hot Date looking to make this a twofer, but won't be able to do so. And meanwhile, Suppose actually able to kind of pop off, using that sniper rifle in more damage fashion than healing fashion that time around, and With KC being one of the last ones left, he's going to have to go in the Meteor Strike. He'll land right on top of Suppose, and this barrage just to add the nail to the coffin on this one. LFT will narrowly hold.
They narrowly hold, but they invest so many resources to do so. The Minefield, the Meteor Strike, the Barrage, both their support ultimates as well. The highest ultimate charge right now is 38% for the self-destruct. It's a nice pick from Nishik to stagger out Hot Date. That's going to force the offense to take even more time to set up. But they're going to have the EMP and the Rally to move into this fight. Dove scouting around in the backline. He might be able to find a lot of value here.
A little bit of indecision, though, for Path to Poverty to where they want to go. Now finally committing to coming through this back courtyard and move on through the right-hand side, respectively, for them. And they'll go under with the rally and come out of the arches with potentially an EMP. Looking for Dove to pull the trigger. We'll use it. It'll find the frontliners, and they'll be able to find KC and Sun just before they're able to find a way out. And with that comes the conversion now into the front line. Path to Poverty making full value of the EMP. They find themselves the payload control and likely point B.
And it was really smart from Dove there to wait out. You know KC on the Doomfist is trying to get aggressive early. If he can't find a pick, immediately uses movement abilities back out. But the fact that EMP comes through as soon as KC commits means he can't use those movement abilities to escape. He's stuck there. He's isolated. And as soon as KC gets shut down, the rest of the team fight unravels as well. Comes in as a desperation stall on Doomfist, doesn't find anything, is going to move on to a Sombra on his own. But there's still a huge support advantage for Path to Poverty here, moving in with 2.5 minutes on the time bank.
A lot of time, but a long way to go. Self-destruct thrown up into be essentially the anti-air, and that will be enough to get Sun to fall on down, and Big Ol will clean up the remains of that Pharah. Now, it will be the Earth Shatter from Jolfi. Not able to find as much value as I think he wanted. He is boosted, but he's mostly using that to clear up the minefield that was left from Vita Coco, who will be chased down and taken away. Big Ol looking for a way to start flailing through the rest of the front line. The self-destruct used in the back will not find any kills. Hacked away, but now the barrage comes out. Sun will find one on a Suppose, and with that resurrection on Vita Coco, the numbers will favor LFT, and this defense will hold initially.
Yeah, Path to Poverty committed to that fight a little too long, I feel, trying to find some value, but they're effectively beating a dead horse at that point. Even though they draw some ultimates away from LFT, it's eaten up so much time bank, and that's exactly what LFT wants to do right now. We've taken 2.5 minutes to do 1.5 minutes in the space of a fight. By the time the re-engage comes through, you're looking at maybe a minute 10. It's a really good situation for LFT to be in, especially when I have the minefield up again. Casey has the EMP as well to try and shut this down. It's going to be down to Dove and EMP. Dove and KC, who can get the most effective EMP here?
Dove looking for it from up high, will find it onto 3, but immediately countered is the EMP from KC. Can they find the sustain to keep the frontliners alive? They'll trade 1 for 1 now with the VMAC on the Hot Date. The numbers will favor LFT, and that'll be enough, it looks like, for them to push this offense back. The stalwart defense holds strong once again.
Okay, Path to Poverty, get out. Don't stagger out. Get as far away as you can. Reset. You've got 45 seconds left on the board. You can still maybe squeeze out 2 fights here. You're going to have the self-destruct coming up on the Overshad and Nano Boost as well. You've got a couple tools to work with. If you can get a clean dry push off here, draw away the barrage and the minefield, and then commit again, that might be your best opportunity. But LFT are definitely looking like the stronger team right now.
It's not going to be a dry fight, Fouls. Jolfi gets boosted, and he immediately gets biotic tornado behind it, so he's not finding that much value. Oh, but the barrage came out and was immediately canceled. Sun finds actually 0 effectiveness out of that whatsoever, and Hot Date says, let's go, and finds OG with the self-destruct. The response from Iron results in deafened ears as no one's able to get taken down by his self-destruct, and numbers finally starting to favor the side of Path to Poverty, but they used the sound barrier. Would that be a mistake? They could have held it a little bit longer. It's going to fade away, and now it's going to be essentially an even fight as Dove will try to turn the tides. Will hit an EMP. Jolfi with the running with an Earth Shatter will help take down Nishik. No res from OG, and Path to Poverty. They'll push it through. They'll take it, and goodness, it was close. But Path to Poverty will reign supreme on Dorado.
Dove wakes up and comes up huge. Those are the plays you need from the Sombra player. Get into the back line, take out the Ana to start off the fight, take out the Farah soon after, farm up another EMP to finish it out. Comes up absolutely huge. Both these DPS players for Path to Poverty had a great game on Dorado, started to wake up after a little bit of a slump. Big Ol obviously had some amazing Dragon Blades and Nano Blades coming in from supposed to set him up. But I do feel like Dove, towards the end there, especially on a Sombra, had a stronger game, farming up these EMPs, so many crucial hacks to cancel out the abilities, and that's what clutched it out for Path to Poverty at the end.
Well, on top of that, when Big All's doing that, reflecting back sleep dart after sleep dart and getting, again, lining up that, well, I don't want to do any promotions for anything out there, but the buffet lines that were those backliners time and time again of LFT, whew, you have to love action like that. But again, we're not done with these two teams. Only one will move on to the grand finals for now. There's still an opportunity for LFT to come back through the losers bracket. They'll have to go up against Team Livid, who will be very, I'm sure, livid to take this next fight. They have been solid throughout their what was a winners bracket push all the way through now. Waiting for these teams to finish out their set. So to finally break down this winners bracket finals, we'll send it back to Green Havoc and the boys to see what they think about LFT and Path to Poverty as they move forward.
You are 100% right. There are so many exciting things to break down about this game. So I'm just going to go ahead and say we saw so many players popping off, making big plays. So I'm going to go ahead and start this off with the most fun question, which is what was the big pop off play? What was the one that got you the most excited? And chat, feel free to post yours as well. But we'll start with you, Mukaibu. What was your favorite play that we saw?
I'm going to go with a lower key one that was at the very end, and that was Big Al landing a shot as Brigitte to knock Farah out of that last barrage. I think that's why they won this entire match. Just the timely ult cancel. We were screaming about it because we knew it was going to come down to one last overtime push. Plus or minus an ult either way, that fight could have gone either way. Big Al just saw Farah coming, nailed her.
Very true, very true. Paulsable, what was your big pop off play?
Well, I was gonna go with that one, but since Mukai stole it from me, I'm gonna go with pick one of Hot Date's self destructs. Right? Absolutely beautiful positioning every time. I cannot count on both hands the amount of kills he got this match with those self destructs, knowing exactly where everyone was going to be. At the very worst, he forced people into unfavorable positions with them, like where on their point C attack for Dorado, he forces Sun on the Farah down into his entire team, where Sun gets deleted by the team instead of the self-destruct. Absolutely beautiful D.Va play.
Very, very, very. Okay, I like it. I like it. Giving shout outs to all the players in the lobby. For me, one of my favorite plays was actually Numbani, and I think it was one of the plays that really let LFT shine on it. And it was the Farah and the Mercy. OG and Sun were lurking in that high ground lobby room, but they were found by Hot Date, who came up and picked off the Farah, but couldn't quite finish off OG on the Mercy while the DMEC was happening. OG gets the res off at a cost to his own life, but it let the Farah on Sun's Farah pop off, take out Hot Date, fly to the point, ult, clean up that fight. So and we saw OG go on a bit of a tear afterwards. You were talking about that, Paulsable. Do you want to walk us through the bloodthirsty Mercy we saw on that next map on the ball?
So essentially, OG on Numbani gets that res that you discussed. He gets another one, that same team fight, onto Vita Coco, right? Stalls out the point. They win Numbani. Next map, he's like, man, I'm a God Mercy player, aren't I? And just runs around killing everyone with the dang pistol. I think he got, 4, 5 Battle Mercy kills through 2 stages of Nepal? Like, there was... Nepal was the story of LFT's pharmacy rolling over Path to Poverty.
So, Mukaibu, LFT almost came back, like you said. They almost had that 3-2 reverse. They fell by just the inches. So in this next game that they're going to be going up in the next round, what's something that you want to see them fix, as the minutes count down before we're ready to go to it?
Well, I mean, Team Livid is going to present a different set of challenges than Path to Poverty did. So to an extent, they're going to have to wait and see what is Team Livid going to be showing them. But at halftime, I called for Pharmacy. when they played Pharmacy, with the exception of the last push. It went well. I know it's not a great textbook counter to goats, but they were making it work for them. Keep riding what's giving you success.
Very true, very true. So we are going to be sending it to a small break. But before we get out of here, I want to ask you guys, who was your MVP of this match? We'll start with you, Paulsable.
Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. There's too many. Who do you like? You could say hot date, or you could say big all, or you could say anybody. I think I am gonna give it to hot date. I love good diva play just as much as anyone else. He was so clutch, always exactly where he needed to be. It just beautiful with every single ability diva has to offer. Never getting caught out, never being the reason that these fights went sour. There's a lot of arguments you could make for so many players on both teams, but hot day for me is the big winner here.
So yeah, when you say most valuable player is distinct from best player, I'm going to give it to Dove for that reason, because when Dove was having a bad map, Path to Poverty looked like they were going to get rolled. When Dove came back and had a good map, Path to Poverty looked unstoppable. They were living and dying his DPS play.
I totally agree, and I also was going to pick Dove. I'm just going to give a shout out to Suppose and Jolfi and all the supports in this game for sticking with the amount of long-winded team fights there were and big team wipes and just all of that. But we do need to send it to about a 15-minute break while we get the next lobby and game set up and give the players a short break to to collect their heads. A huge shout out to I Hold Shift and casting. We will have a new pair of casters that we will introduce in the next game. So I hope you stick around for the losers finals before we get on to our grand finals a little later on in the night. We'll see you in just a bit.